I call to order this regular meeting of the Monument Board of Trustees, September 19th, 2022. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hogan, will you take roll, please?
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott. Here. Trustee LeKind,
Here.
Trustee Ramos,
Here.
Trustee Romanello,
Here.
Trustee Shaning. Here. Trustee Stevens.
Here.
Before us, we have an agenda. Do we have any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move number 7 discussion item to just after the presentation, number 4, Trinity Community Park, but before the ordinances.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion, a second. Ms. Hogan, will you take roll for that modification?
Trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Trustee Shaning,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello.
Yes,
That motion passes 7-0. First item on the agenda, oath of office, Chief Hemingway.
Anybody else want to come up? Senator Johnson here? Okay. Okay, you want to come up? Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Mayor, board. It's my distinct honor and privilege to swear in one of Monument's finest tonight, Officer Christina DiRienzo. I apologize. I always, yeah, I worked with many DiLorenzos, so it's going to take a while. Yeah. Officer DiRienzo joined the Monument Police Department in September this year. Accompanying her today are her fiance, Jessica. Welcome. And 2 of her chiefs from the Navy, Zachary Douglas and Alyssa Wright. Welcome. As well as many friends and coworkers. Officer DiRienzo has been serving with the Navy for 14 years now, including 3 years of sea service, and she is currently a Chief Petty Officer with the Navy Reserve. Some of her accomplishments and awards include National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Medal, congratulations, Global War on Terrorism Medal, I'm sorry, there are 2, yes. Sea Service Deployment Ribbon, Navy and Marine Corps Overseas Service Ribbon, awarded Armed Forces Reserve Medal, Naval Reserve Meritorious Service Medal, enlisted Expeditionary Warfare Specialist qualification. And she also comes to us from San Bernardino, California, where she served in that city's. Yeah. Thank you. Her prior law enforcement experience includes San Bernardino City Unified School District Police as a patrol officer. And I can tell you, aside from all of her awards, when I sat down one-on-one with her, her strongest award, in my opinion, was mentoring and taking many troubled youth off the street when it went well beyond her call of duty. And that was the thing that hit my heart the closest. So I'm very proud of you for that. She graduated with the State of California Post Academy in 2021. So in front of her friends, it's now my pleasure, and it comes with great confidence, that I present Officer DiRienzo to this Monument administration, the mayor, the board of trustees, to our Monument Police Department family, and to the great residents we serve in Monument as she enters her new role as police officer. Now, Mayor, we will administer the oath this time. Raise your right hand. I, Christina Di Rienzo,
I, Christina D'Arienzo,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and bear true faith
that I will support and bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution and laws
and the allegiance to the Constitution and the laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the state of Colorado,
and the state of Colorado,
and to the ordinances of the town of Monument,
and to the ordinances of the town of Monument,
and that I will defend and protect the lives,
that I will defend and protect the
the
lives,
safety,
safety,
and property of the people of Monument,
and property of the people of Monument,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of the office of police officer
discharge the duties of the office of a police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to say thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to, speaking to the mic, to be able to serve for your guys' city. I'm extremely excited. I'm a very big community-oriented police officer. From where I come from, it's very, very important to me. So I'm excited to have this opportunity to serve for you guys. So thank you very much. Coming back, I promise. I'm coming back.
Chief, what's your rate?
Quartermaster.
Quartermaster, OS?
Oh,
Corpsman.
Corpsman.
Thank you for your
thank you.
service.
Thank you both. So my OS is like my twin, but they're smarter than us.
We'll talk. Shows you're smarter. It's widget. He's a twidget. It's now at least 4 Navy people to want to pay on you.
Okay, before we get to our next item, we have one technicality that we need to take care of. We had a motion to amend the agenda. We did not have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Yes.
I move to approve the agenda as modified.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, Ms. Hogan.
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
trustee LaKind,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes,
trustee Shaning,
Yes.
trustee Ramos.
Yes.
that motion passes 7-0. Item number 4, Trinity Community Park, Ms. Schwartz.
Good evening. I'm also bringing up here John Balk, who's helped with this big project. So, thank you, Drew. First of all, I just want to say thanks. Super excited to be here to tell everybody about this project. So, thanks. There we go. So, how did we get here? I'm actually going to have John explain a little bit of this.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, we're, for those of you that might not know, Trinity Lutheran Church is located just east of I-25, and we're back east in those other places back in there. And back in 1992, we built a playground at our church. And at that time, my wife, Carla, who taught in the Lewis Palmer district for 30 some years, she and I took some memorial funds from a son that we lost that year, and we built the original playground. And so when Tamara came to us this last year and said, hey, the playground's getting pretty worn down, it's time to do something new, we tore that down and we raised funds, and we did that within the context of just our church, and we raised over $50,000 and built that new playground there. So Tamara's going to talk a little bit more about what's going on, but that's how we got here.
Yeah. So the landscape at Trinity has really changed. We used to be in a field with cows and prairie dogs, and now we're around 5 housing developments. And so, now there's kiddos from the housing developments that are coming to use the playground. So we knew really quickly that this was something that we wanted to do. And hands down, everybody in our congregation knew right away that family and community is super important. And it was no questions asked about opening this up to everyone to be able to use, not just the members of Trinity. So, so that has to do with our inclusivity, our unity, coming together with the town. So as John mentioned, the results happened very quickly. There was just a couple of us. We stood up in front in October, explained our vision and our dream. Within weeks, we had the $50,000. We had the equipment ordered in December. It shipped in March, started building in April, and opened to the community. So it was quick, it's fast, under budget, on time. Yeah, I know, right there. But when we started researching playground equipment, which we had no idea, right? How much is out there and what is available, we realized really quickly there is a segment in our community that is underserved. And how to really bring in inclusivity and unity. For instance, our dear friend here, Drew, and how everyone can play together. And what does that mean? So the results, like I mentioned, we opened in May. It's dog friendly. It has a fitness trail that goes around a 1/4 mile. There's a picnic area with picnic tables and some shade. Classic Homes that is being developed right behind us has come together with some integration to put in a walking path to access with their development to come in and use the park also. Thanks. Oh, next slide. Okay. There we go. Okay, the community impact. So as I already mentioned, it's an inclusive, it's a play area, it's a park on the east side of I-25, which is in desperate need. It's open to the public, dawn to dusk. Safety, it's got great access. There's parking. You're not on a busy street. It's not on, there's an accessible parking lot. Right now we have the first ADA swing in the region. So, which is great. Next. Okay. Oops. Woo, we're going crazy. Well, while we're doing that, and when we had the ribbon cutting, I just want to say Mitch and Darcy and Mike were there, which was super inspirational, I'm sure, for you guys to all see the kiddos playing. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, it's wonderful to have you guys. So it was just really great. Even the kids that were throwing water balloons at Mike. It was fun. Yeah. So phase 2. So when we started researching the equipment, we learned very quickly that 2 to 3% of our population are physically disabled. That number goes up to 10% that are developmentally disabled. And where can they go and play? So from our dear friend Drew to my friend Sharon's daughter Siobhan, when I started calling people and asking, like, where do you guys go? We really realized that they don't. And that there isn't anything anywhere close to being up in this area, which broke our heart. And that, just changed everything when we came back to the 12 volunteers on our team. And we just said, hey, what do you think? Should we go for phase 2? Unanimous. Every person on our team said, wow, we have to do that for our community. So we will be with our proposal, and that picture right there on the screen, which is a merry-go-round that wheelchairs can literally wheel right on. There's nothing close to what we are proposing within 50 miles. We don't know of anything south of this, and 50 miles north is up by Stapleton. Then, for the town of Monument, it's a new attraction for businesses, for the community, for our people. And it reduces, right now, it'll be reducing the town's capital needs. And it promotes quality of life for everybody coming together. Next. Partnership. Trinity is a year ago, we were annexed into the town of Monument. So we're together with this. Operational assistance from, we have that quarter-mile path that you saw. You know, if your equipment is out grading other trails, you know, if you can come and grade for us. Yeah, I saw that eye contact there between the two of you. We have a big grass field next to it. You know, if we can have some mowing, some snow removal, so the town can come and access, you know, or today I met with Madeline, who I thought was going to be here. Oh, okay. Maybe even like, you know, some striping, maybe a few handicap parking spots that are close. Something to that effect, if we can work together on some operational assistance. Police presence, I just want to say we love it right now, whether it's the town and or El Paso County, the police department is coming and they're like doing paperwork and whatever in our parking lot. We love it. Just want to let you know. So thank you. And so we encourage that, you know, and just kind of check on the park, that kind of thing. So thank you. Master planning, you know, if there's, you know, I know that we're going to have that access with Classic Homes, but if there's a trail system, anything to that effect, you know, we're open. And then of course, financial assistance. So to help us with phase 2, to help us with operational costs. And next slide, Drew. Discussion. I'm sure you have questions for me, for us. Sorry, John, I went so fast. Did you have anything to add in, John?
Moral support. No, I was just gonna say that as far as the partnership thing goes, as we move into phase 2 now, phase 1 you mentioned was totally raised within the community here in our church. But phase 2 will be, you know, going after grants, hopefully working with you guys and a bunch of hopefully corporate sponsors. And we've already laid some of that groundwork, and we're going to be getting after that to get some folks and just the community itself. I think at our grand opening here late August, you already have a commitment to $2,000. So
yeah. Anyway,
every little bit will help to get this done, and we think it'll be a real positive for the community. So that's why we're doing it.
Is there any questions from the board?
I just want to say thank you. It's beautiful to hear what you guys are doing or what you've already done. And I know everybody in the town wants to say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
Thank
You guys were way too easy on me.
Information when we were there
Oh,
for the opening.
For the grand opening.
It was so great. Thank you.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you for being there. It was great. Again, that's that partnership thing. So we appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
No questions. Okay, this brings us to our discussion item, development moratorium. This is driven by the Board of Trustees, but I would like to start off with Mr. Foreman if you could give us an overview on where we are in development, staffing, and all the alike.
Okay. Well, as you know, a couple of staff members have made choices to leave the town of Monument for different reasons. And so due to that, the town of Monument has engaged in a contract with Jacobs Engineering to do our planning reviews for us. Currently, Jacobs Engineering does all of our engineering reviews for us on projects that are concerning our planning process. So we did we used the town's purchasing process to interview different companies that could provide this service for us and chose Jacobs Engineering. Sean Snow and Mark Kitzmiller are both here. If y'all would stand up. Sean's to the right, Mark Kitzmiller's to the left. I've sent all of you their resumes, how long they've worked in the field and everything like that. And then also, I think I sent you a statement from them that they have no operational contacts with any developers that we're working with currently today. So in the town of Monument. So they have no conflicts with working with the town of Monument. We have the projects that we have before you today, and then we're rearranging the schedule on about 6 more projects that we have. And then we probably have a couple more projects that are coming in, but right now things are starting to slow down. And our plan is to take a look at everything that we're doing, take a slow process to bring this before the Planning Commission and to the board, and not rush anything going forward.
Thank you. And Mr. Rivera, would you give us a kind of a brief description and overview of what a moratorium is? No, I'm sure you don't want to give us any legal advice, so just stick to the basics.
I'll use a previous example that the town enacted. So some of you may recall we had a moratorium on kratom, and that was I'm not sure still what it is. It's basically some type of powder that folks find some medicinal value with, and there was some folks who wanted to open up stores or open up stores that sold kratom, or make arrangements with stores already in the town to sell this product kratom. And the town, I believe it was about 2 or 3 years ago, imposed a moratorium, and that moratorium had some important components, and those components are as follows. It was implemented to develop regulations regarding the sale of kratom, when it could be sold, where it could be sold, what hours, to whom, under what conditions. It was for a limited time. So the moratorium was for, I believe it was for 180 days, I believe, it might have been 90, but it was for a time certain, specifically for the purpose of developing those regulations. It was for a very specific issue, kratom. And also it was to fill a void. The town had no other regulations on the books regarding the sale of kratom. And that's under those circumstances, the town enacted a moratorium to develop regulations regarding the sale of kratom. To the extent that a moratorium has those components, is to the extent that it can withstand review. Does it have to have all those components? No, I think that there's a lot of gray area there. But that's what the typical moratorium looks like. And to the extent it has all those characteristics, it withstands review. To the extent it doesn't, it's more susceptible to challenge. What I understand the next step to be is for the board to indicate whether there's appetite for a moratorium, and then instruct staff and give the staff some additional guidance as to the conditions of it.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to the board for any questions or comments or continued discussion. In fact, I'll start. Mr. Foreman, what does the staffing outlook look like for towns, for Planner 1 and Planning Director?
Currently, we have advertisements out for Planner 2 and for a director. We have not chosen to interview anyone at this time. We are in the early stages of talking to a couple of the Planner 2s, And so until we decide on who we're going to hire, we're going to stay with Jacobs Engineering as our consultant.
Is Debbie Flynn still staying on part-time?
Great point. Yes. So Debbie just got to Florida. She doesn't have internet right now, or she would be online right now. She is contracting with the town of Monument. Yep.
Okay. And my other question is, we contracted with Jacobs in which year? We
6 years ago
6 years.
for engineering.
For how long?
We're still contracting with them
But
for
they were
engineering.
doing the majority of the reviews 6 years ago, correct?
for engineering only.
Okay.
Yes,
Did we ever have any issues with Jacobs?
we have not.
Thank you.
Trustee Romanelli?
How many towns our size typically do contract out?
I don't know how many towns
Is it a
our
common
size,
thing?
it is a common thing. We already have third-party contracts for IT. We use it when special things come up. Your town attorney has served us for how many years now? Off and on?
Off and on, 3 years or so.
Yeah, so a lot of towns our size choose to do the third party. There's a lot of benefits for doing third party versus having staff on hand that it may not be beneficial to have them on hand 24/7. We have third party that we can call when we need them.
And being a little assumptive, if the board sees fit to pass ordinance number 16, 2022, this would just be a task of simply reviewing zoning compliance and making sure everything overlays properly with ordinances, not making any kind of decision, judgment, or anything subjective at all.
Like has happened in the past, sir, I still will serve as the planning director. So I'll serve as the interim planning director and the town manager. And so all decisions will, from them will stop with me. So they will just be a consultant for me, and then I will bring it to the planning commission and the board.
Can I keep asking?
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. So in what I'm seeing right now and understanding and in even having discussions with you, and I don't think Mr. Wachulis is here, right? No.
Online.
He's online. I feel that we are fairly uncompetitive at the planning level, or so it appears to be. And it appears to me with what we have left to quote unquote develop, that a career-minded person would really want to land here. It would seem. Am I seeing that right?
Yeah, trustee Romanello, it is difficult to hire planning directors for every town in Colorado, it seems like.
Okay.
The private sector is having troubles finding planning personnel, especially senior planning personnel. And so you see a lot of people that are working for counties and cities and towns going to the private sector because they're able to lure them with the invite of a lot of money. And so it is difficult for us to find that person that wants to come work for the government and, you know, work in a process that's like what we have to do here in the town of Monument.
I wouldn't want to see us just go through person after person after person. That would be, I think, much more worse for the town than having a third-party contractor. That's for sure. Okay, that's all I have.
It's real similar to what we're talking about with engineering. We've never had a senior or a chief engineer work for the town that I know of since I've been here at least, and we've always contracted that out.
All right, thank you. Good.
I'd like to ask something. So I think the big, at least from what I hear from the town, a big concern a lot of us are having is not that we're going to hire a third party. It's that we're being told we can't even put a little pause until kind of all of our ducks are in a row. I feel like, at least in my mind, it would be reasonable to allow our third party, who's already worked with us before in a different capacity, to have a little bit of time to get educated on this specific job. Because even though they've worked with us for a long time, to me, it does sound reasonable. And a lot of people have sent me emails asking if we could have time, whether we call it a moratorium or it's a pause or we ask the developers to just understand that we're in a really big transition period right now. And I think it would be reasonable, even if it's us asking the developers to just allow us a little bit of time to train up this third party to this new job, because it is a new job that they're doing for us.
I would believe they would do that on their own. if they weren't confident with what they were putting forth before Mike or the board and their contracts at risk, I believe they'd take their time and ask for whatever time they need.
When you're saying that, you're talking the third
The
party?
contractor,
Okay.
yes.
Well, and I hear that concern too. I mean, I realize this is a big transition. You and I have talked about it back and forth. But then I guess the question would be, we couldn't really apply that logic every time we hired a new staff member.
Right.
Just say we're gonna pause everything until this staff member is up to speed. So I'm not sure why we would hold Jacobs to a different standard just on the assumption that they may not know what they're doing. But I think that maybe there are ways to take a pause without going all the way to a moratorium.
I have a question for Mr. Rivera. What are the legal implications? I'm sure we may have, we learned earlier that our queue is kind of slow right now, but should it pick up, or what are the legal implications of being on pause in that situation?
It depends.
Okay.
It's a gray area and it depends. And I started with that intentionally because I think that if the board has an appetite to go down this road, I think the most appropriate next step, it would be helpful, I think, for the town staff and the developers is to define the time, like how long are we talking about, and then put some meat on the bone in terms of the scope of the moratorium. Is it just new applications? Is it applications at midpoints? Is it, what are we holding? Because just to say moratorium, you need to define that a little bit more in terms of the whole, everything just stops, or are we not accepting applications, or where are we in, what types of applications are impacted by the moratorium, or what type of building permits are required but are affected by the moratorium. And then also to provide that reasoning to the staff and then help the staff find the appropriate findings. And resolutions very often have these whereas clauses. And in this type of action, I think those whereas clauses take on a little bit more vital role. And I think that if there is some appetite to do this, I would suggest having a study session and working amongst yourselves, and then directing staff to answer those questions for the staff, so that we could put together an ordinance that accommodates what you're attempting to accomplish.
So I think that leads to the question of, Mr. Foreman, what has already been done? What is in the queue and what is on the horizon, say over the next 3 months, say the 90 days?
So what I just was writing down, we've been meeting almost every day ever since we hired them. We had 4 hours worth of meetings today. On the agenda tonight, you're looking at two things. One, you're looking at an ordinance, possibly repealing ordinance 15-22. What would be the outcome of that? The outcome of that slows down the process. It really slows down the process. You're going to have to take more time to look at more of these cases. And so that's one way to slow down the process. The other thing that you're doing, that you're proposing tonight, is postponing or canceling the October 3rd meeting. And so you combine those two things, the next time we'll be in front of you with a case would be October 17th. So it almost gives us, a full month of getting them up to speed to where they can present you the cases that are on for us to bring to you.
And what's coming up on, say in that month, is that whatever they bring to us next? Is it a large project, or are we talking? I mean, I think we're aware that a lot of our large projects are already past the point of further approval.
So you have two that were postponed last for this meeting. You have 3 more that are scheduled for the October 12th Planning Commission. And then the 2 that were postponed, they're to be brought to you on October 17th.
So have those been reviewed by previous staff? Are they still in review process?
They've already been reviewed by previous staff.
So it's nothing new.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. So, and then November 7th, we have 2 more on November 7th.
And the ones in November, Where are they still under review
They've
or?
already been reviewed by everybody and their cases have already, the cases have already been put together.
So it sounds like we don't have anything new for at least 50 days.
Yes, sir.
Then you'll have a new board.
So no sooner did the topic of moratorium get discussed out on social media and the email started coming into our mailboxes. Two more developments were submitted, or one was a plat, one was a PUD the same time. And the clock has now started to tick on that one. That was while we had no staff. I floated the idea out there and, well, I'm not going to say who, I got lit up for my suggestion via text message for floating the idea that maybe developers would self-impose their own moratorium, knowing that the staff was not here. You know, we've had several developers come to work with the citizens of the town. They've worked with the staff with the town when we had a staff. And then we have had developers who have not thought that one through and clearly texting me and lambasting me for my idea about self-imposed moratorium. Well, clearly they submitted something anyway when we had no staff. I still would like to think that if a developer has not submitted something until the staff that we have now that are contracted are brought up to speed on our codes, that they would refrain from further clogging the pipeline with things that we can't address at this with the rest of the things that we're working on.
And Trustee LaKine, I'd like to inform you that when you say we have no staff, we actually have one staff left. And that's the person that takes in the plans and everything that's submitted by the developers and submits them to everybody that reviews them. And so Teresa Rust is still here. And so those are processed. They're in the process right now. And so they'll be reviewed by the same reviewers that reviewed all the other cases. And so the staff that we have contracted with, they'll be part of that review process.
How long is that review process?
Typically, it's 30 days for the first review. And then there'll be some comments back from the reviewers. And then they'll have another 30 days to submit comments on those comments. So it could be 60 days, but typically it takes about 90 days for those to come to the Planning Commission.
How long is Ms. Flynn gonna be contracted with us?
Her company, if she gets hired by the company that I think she's going to be hired by, I've talked to them and they said we could have her indefinitely. So.
So we're not paying her directly, we're going to another company.
No, we're paying her directly. They're just, she's going to go to work for another company in Florida.
Yeah.
We're not contracting
Okay.
with them. We're contracting directly with her.
Okay, thank you.
Just not an employee. Just not an employee.
She's just a.
Part-time contractor.
Signed a contract
1099,
today.
right? Not W-2, she's 1099.
1099.
So we're only paying her when we need her or use her.
Exactly.
Mr. Foreman, do you think that with the remaining work we have, as far as what's left to develop and the projects in the queue that you just mentioned, that this is a full-time commitment by somebody? Or kind of goes up and down?
I'm studying that right now, discussing that with staff, discussing that with some of our Jacobs Engineering and everything like that. I'm up in the air with it right now. I really am, because there's some of the things that Trustee Romanella said are true. You know, are we going to need a full-time director? Now, I think we'll definitely need a planner, or a senior planner to, bring in everything and kind of control where it goes and who's reviewing it and stuff like that. But right now, I really think we could get away with a third-party plan review company that does that. It'd probably save the town $100,000 a year, possibly. So we're looking at that right now.
Are there any impacts to, like I remember seeing a letter from Mr. McGrady on Triview Metro. Would there be any impact to stuff that, to our water projects or their water projects? Would a moratorium or a pause or whatever affect them in any way?
I can tell you this, I got a call and an email from Mr. McGrady. He's really concerned about that. He's really concerned right now. He's ready to go to the bond market. to sell bonds to be able to do a project to bring water to Triview. We are working with 3 other companies to do the same thing. And our bond agent called today and asked us, what about this moratorium? And so there's concern out there about a moratorium. I can tell you Jim's very concerned about his ability to be able to go to the market. And my bond company's concerned too.
So you're saying we wouldn't be able to
I'm not
get a,
saying that we wouldn't. I'm saying there's concern there.
okay.
So what would be the ramifications to the existing bonds? Mr. McGrady mentioned that the bonds that are already in existence could be drastically impacted if we went to a moratorium.
I'm not sure how drastically they could be impacted.
Okay.
Because we have a way to pay them. So we put up money, we put up property to be able to pay that in case something does bad. You know, you could have a bad economy hit. And so we have emergency efforts to where we can pay those off. We have a pretty good cash flow in our water fund, but also we have pretty good revenues coming in from the water fund, from sales tax and from water production. And so I'm not worried about paying existing debt because we only have one debt instrument that we have to pay, but I am concerned about doing other projects in the future.
And is Triview in the same situation we are, where are they dependent on, are their current bonds covered? Do you know? I mean,
I couldn't answer
okay.
that.
Could you discuss a little bit the turn of events that occurred with the ordinance 1522 and the way that that was presented to the developer and then the town subsequently pulling it back? Because that was, I think that's one of the main questions that is circling a lot of this activity is what happened there. And I think it would be best if you explain that.
Yeah, definitely. The town made a mistake. I mean, we definitely did. We told developers that they could follow the ordinance that y'all passed. But one thing that we didn't think about, the town didn't think about, was that it's not 30 days after you pass the ordinance. It's 30 days after it's published in a local newspaper. And so we didn't wait that 39 days. It actually needed to be 39 days. And so that ordinance doesn't go in effect until Wednesday. So if they would have presented tonight, they wouldn't have been under that ordinance. And they were told they could present under that ordinance. And so they legally could not. And so we had that pulled. It'll come back to you at a future date. Depending on what you do tonight, they'll bring it back to you under whichever ordinance is under effect after tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Additional discussion on this item.
Another question on the water issues. Would a moratorium impact any of the current plans that we have as far, I mean, we talked about the bond issue, but would they affect, I know we've got water projects in the works. Is there any more planning that needs to be done for that? I thought we were past most of that. And likewise with Mr. McGrady, are there any water projects that we would delay or inhibit by setting this moratorium?
Bonds. So all the projects that we have set, you know, we're working on a tank project up in Red Rocks right now. We've got another tank project on Beacon Light Road. We've got 5 miles of water lines that we're putting in right now. So all of those projects are going to be completed because they're funded. Jim's got projects that he's working on also, but at the same time, he's working on a southern delivery line that's going to come from south of Colorado Springs all the way up to Triview. And us and Woodmore and Denali are working on a loop system. And so, you know, we're all planning on financing those lines. There's no way we can cash fund those lines. And so we're planning on financing those. Whenever you plan on financing those, when you're bringing water lines to a town, you're planning on growth. And so growth is what pays for the debt service that you have to pay, that you have to take out to pay for those projects.
But are any of those projects going to get delayed? We were talking about the financing is required before they can move forward on the.
Right, we're going to continue engineering them because that's what we're doing now. We're going to continue forming a relationship with the three organizations that we're working with. So I don't think today it will delay anything as far as that. You bet.
Jacobs has been on our engineer since then.
Yes, I believe Jacobs is one of the 4 or 5 firms that were assigned to the planning department as far as whatever they needed for their services, because they were already doing a lot of plan review and different aspects of the process. We have 9 other firms that are in our on-call status that we use for water, bridge, and street projects. But Jacobs is in that group that went over to the planning side along with some other firms. So yes, they are currently one of the on-call engineers for planning department.
And Jacobs, several years back acquired CH2M Hill, correct?
I do not know that to be fact.
I'm getting a head nod.
I think Mark can answer that.
And CH2M Hill was one of, I would say, one of the leading companies in outsourced municipality positions, kind of like HR Green. Is that correct? And CH2M Hill was leading the way in kind of the idea of what is now like HR Green and some of those contractors that provide municipal services, correct?
That's my understanding. I wasn't with the original Legacy CH2M.
Okay.
But that's my understanding. We have several folks who are still with Jacobs who had municipal experience.
And you guys have additional planning resources beyond yourselves, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any action from the board?
I would just like to get a clarification then. Mr. Rivera, I know you mentioned it before when Trustee Stevens had asked, but if we were to say as a board or town that we would like a moratorium for blank amount of days, are we open to, in your opinion, have a lawsuit successfully put against us? Not just getting sued, but do you think they would actually have legal action to take on us?
The first step would be to find a consensus among the board members to take the next step. And then the next step after that I would encourage the board to have a study session or something like a study session to answer the questions that I posed regarding timing, how long is the moratorium, scope, what does moratorium mean? Does it mean nothing comes in or out of the planning department or something less than that? And then also develop some findings to support those action items. And then after having compiled all of that, then I could better provide an answer to your question. And before that step, I could not.
Thank you. And then just to, again, a follow up on that, if we were to, not saying board's going to do this, but we are able to say this isn't a blanket, every single development gets turned down. We could also say we can make it very minimal, or we could, say developments over a blank amount of size. We could come up with our own version of this. Basically, we can make a small amount of time. We could say only new developments that have to do with, and kind of cherry pick what we think is important Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would encourage you, I think what you're asking is can you define how specific it will be in both in terms of subject matter and in terms of timing? And the answer to those questions is yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion or any other further actions?
I wouldn't mind doing a, what'd you call it, a study session and sit down and discuss that.
Yeah, a study session, a work session, you guys have done that before on various items, mostly with the budget, but something like that, yeah.
What would you be looking for a workshop for?
Well, basically the idea of a short-term pause until we're feeling more comfortable about some of the things that we're moving forward on. I think given the fact that we're in a lull, this would probably not affect us, or from what I'm gathering, what I've heard, I don't think it will affect us. I think a short-term pause might, so we can evaluate that and discuss the details.
If we don't meet again until October 17th, and our study session, if we did a study session on October 17th, would that even be, I mean, by the time we did that, it seems like a moot point to me if we're not meeting for another month.
Well, we can meet sooner.
Okay.
And you already have a work session on the 17th.
Right, we're gonna be going into
Budget.
budget season here, which is gonna make
Yeah.
that interesting.
With the pace that we're looking at over the next couple months, I don't know that a study session would benefit anything.
And it doesn't seem like anything new is gonna come up for 90 days, and by that point, my goodness, if they're not competent, we're in trouble anyway.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they're not, but I mean, right? I mean, I'm assuming that, as we, hire a town manager to do his job, he wouldn't have hired you thinking that you weren't, so. Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to keep my job. So. Typically.
Okay, so is there any additional support for a workshop?
I would like that.
Any other?
When would we do that?
Set of time.
We can figure out a
Well-
time I would be interested in as well.
Okay. Further on our agenda, we have a possible cancellation of the October 3rd meeting. We can forfeit that cancellation since it looks like we're going to need a workshop to discuss this anyway. So my suggestion would be a workshop October 3rd to discuss the pause.
Well, I would think that Mr. Rivera would come with the criteria that he needs, and then we would be able to give him clear direction at that time.
I don't believe he'd be able to come with the criteria unless we gave him some sort of direction on what we were looking for.
I could provide you the broad criteria, but you would have to then fill in put the meat on the
Fill in the
bone,
blanks.
fill in the blanks, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And then there'd be some time to get some direction from you, whether I would feel comfortable providing an opinion to you if there's sufficient detail at that point. So, but I would rely, you're the board of trustees, you have the authority to make these decisions, and I would rely on you to give that direction.
So we will not cancel the October 3rd. So whatever you had on the agenda, Mike, we'll go ahead and bring back and add a more workshop to it also.
Okay, I just want to make you aware of something. And the crowd's not gonna like this, I can tell you. If you have a meeting on October 3rd, that means some of the things that we have ready for October 17th, maybe moved up to October 3rd because they're ready to go. The only reason they were moved to October 17th was because you were canceling the potential to cancel the October 3rd meeting.
So an effort to pause will hurry things up.
Exactly. Exactly what I was trying to explain to you.
I don't like that. October 3rd meeting go. I would say we let the October 3rd meeting go and not do a workshop then.
Okay.
I agree with that. I don't want to speed things up.
Excuse me, I didn't hear you. Mayor Pro Tem, what did you say?
I was just saying, I agree with trustee Romanello. I don't want to speed things up.
I would also say no to that meeting then if it's going to do the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
No meeting.
So no meeting, no workshop.
I'm running out of space to scribble.
Trustee LaKine, do you have?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So we will not do the October 3rd meeting or workshop. Any final comments on this discussion item? Okay. Seeing none, I will close that discussion and we will move on to, we are not. There will be public comments section, item 8. That takes us to ordinance A number 16, 2022. Mr. Rivera.
Thank you. I was asked to draft this ordinance this previous week, and the ordinance as drafted appears in your packet. In essence, it's a repealing ordinance. The ordinance number 162022 repeals ordinance number 152022. And I think the best analogy is on Microsoft Word, there's a redo button. You just hit that and it's like it doesn't exist. That's the intent. That's how that was how I attempted to implement it. If you look at your packet, and I can't find my version, but you'll see some language regarding effective dates. Let me try to find it real quick. I found it, just a moment. So if you see section 2, and that's so basically because of the effective date of ordinances, it's 30 days past the publication date. So the ordinance number 152022 does not become effective until September 23rd. The ordinance number 16. Get the right number. 162022 will not become effective until 30 days past its publication date. So there's some daylight between September 23rd, 2022, and whatever the publication date, 30 days past the publication date for 162022. And to handle that daylight, I've added the language that appears in section 2, which basically the board hereby instructs town staff to A, not accept any zoning or land use applications that rely upon the changes to the town land code contemplated by ordinance number 152022 and not otherwise implement or recognize those changes. So it provides to the town staff guidance to basically not permit anything coming forth from ordinance number 152022 to see the light.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Yeah, now, you mentioned earlier that there was, in the discussion, or maybe it was Mr. Foreman, that there was a mistake here, and we were told that ordinance number 15 was to make things more efficiently. And so now what is the main reason? I understand what a repeal is, but what is the main reason for repealing something that we passed a little while earlier?
It's the posting dates, right?
Yeah, it's previously so what happened was you passed this ordinance. What it says is it's 30 days beyond the posting of the ordinance in a public newspaper. So staff did not follow that. They told developers it's going to be 30 days. And so from the time you passed it. So that's why it was on tonight's agenda originally. But like the counselor said, there's 3 more days before the posting is up. And so hearing it tonight wouldn't have been legal. And so we took it off the agenda.
Hearing the development, not the
Right,
ordinance,
development.
or any
Yeah, hearing the
development that,
Any development that was under 15-2022 would not have been legal. So we're going back to the old ordinance that was already in effect. And so, like you just said, what this repeal will do, instruct staff not to instruct any developers to function under 15-2022 anymore. We'll go back to the old ordinance and follow the original intent of the old ordinances.
And I think to answer your question a little bit more is that the 15-2022 had basically squished together some steps.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, having repealed that ordinance, we go back to the code as enacted in the summer of 2021.
Right.
So it's basically just a complete redo. And so all of the processes in place, as of the date that 15-2022 was passed, will remain in place, and there'll be in essence no change.
And I think what you're looking for is you'll get more opportunity to look at the projects. So you'll get more opportunity.
Which is how it should have been before this terrible ordinance was put into place.
okay. Any other questions from the board at this time for staff? This particular item is a public hearing item. Would anybody like to speak for or against this ordinance? Ordinance number 16-2022. Mr. King.
I'm Steve King. Yeah, I would like to speak to reverse this ordinance because the truth of the matter is the previous planning director, I'm just going to say she misled me into thinking that you were going to get more information at one hearing that was all combined. And the fact of the matter is that the final step to that ordinance, which you normally would have received in the final PUD, would go to the consultant and the consultant would review it, or to Mr. Foreman if he's acting planning director. And everything needs to be in front of you. So that's kind of one of these problems that we're having right now with getting everybody up to speed. There's a lot of steps in here that are confusing. And the fact of the matter is, Planning Commission, Board of Trustees, especially Board of Trustees, you guys are the elected officials. You need to see every piece of these documents or we're just going to end up, continually having problems that we have. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Sir?
My name's John Kona. I have a 20-year residence here. I think we should go back to 16-20-022. I was really concerned about hearing about 15-20-22 that was adopted on 8/15 that combined the preliminary and the final project reviews together. That means we don't have enough time to review it. And I think that we really need to work on getting the preliminary documentation clear and don't allow changes when we go to final project reviews. Minimize changes going to final project reviews.
Thank you. Anyone else here in person that would like to comment, sir?
Honorable Mayor, Tim, I see y'all. Appreciate your efforts on our behalf. I know this has got to be kind of a pain in the butt. Okay, I do. I agree that we should go back, what Mr. Conan and Mr. King just said. But it's more than that, it's a principle thing. And that's what the trustees need to embrace. You have to embrace a principle that we don't need more storage units. We don't need massive warehouses built right behind people's backyards without even a thought to the roads. All right? This place has the potential to be really special. Special. Branson. Carmel. Look at a lot of these places around the nation, Telluride, Golden, that spent time and thought about what it could be and didn't just kick developers out. They worked with them. They worked with them. And you can do this. And I know some of y'all get some money from the developers to get elected, right? I know some of y'all get money from other people to get elected. I know all that stuff works. All right. But I come from California. Okay. I come from California. And they do all kind of stuff out there. All right. To impede development and mess with developers and all that stuff, but stuff still gets built. We came from a cute little town called Danville. They did a great job. They had a vision for the town. They didn't build storage units all over the place. We didn't end up looking like Interquest Parkway. Beautiful stores. You know what that does? That does bring growth. Mike, it brings growth because it's got beautiful, wonderful restaurants and boulevards, places that matter to people like us. The reason they're all here is because they're afraid that you're going to turn this damn thing into First and Main out there with a bunch of Amazon warehouses. But that's why they're here. So that's
Sir, do you have,
That's why. Steve Shep, good friend of mine. Connexus, good friend of mine. I told him I can't build a warehouse in my county. All right, seriously, seriously. I got a little development project myself I'm doing in this town. Okay? Everything is slow right now. Sorry, you guys. I know it sucks, man. I know the same thing. It's hard, man. It's hard. And they got carry costs, hurts them. I know. But we can figure a path that doesn't have to hurt all these developers to the max, but also doesn't have to destroy our town that has the potential to be like Brands. We got to tear down some storage units. We'll figure that out. Okay, but potential to be like those kinds of places. Have a vision for that. Take that vision and put it in your heart, especially if you're going to run for re-election, try to sit up there again for another, 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, however long.
okay.
10 years, yeah, whatever, but y'all working hard. And I know there's a lot of feelings and a lot of people are upset, right? But I think there's a path to work with these developers. I liked your text, by the way. I thought your text was a good idea. That was a good idea. Y'all can get there. Let's pull it back. Let's try to help the developers where we can, right? Figure out a plan that works, because there's a plan for this town. We just haven't really paid attention to it for a long time. All right? Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Right?
That's okay. Okay, is there? Excuse me.
Can we get his
Is-
name, Mayor?
Sir, can we get your name? Okay. We good, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any comments pertaining to ordinance number 16, 2022? Mr. Anderson, do we have anyone online wishing to comment on this ordinance? Okay. This time we'll bring this ordinance back to, we will close the public hearing portion and bring this ordinance back to the board for further discussion. Or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 16, 2022, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 15, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Shaning,
Yes.
trustee LaKind,
Yes.
trustee Romanello,
Yes.
trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. That ordinance passes 7-0. That takes us to ordinance number 17, 2022. Trailer Express, Mr. Foreman, who is presenting this one?
I think this can be Sean Snow.
Okay, Mr. Snow?
Make sure you turn your microphone.
Drew, will this be up on the screen or no?
Trustee LaKine, what was your question?
Were we supposed to get any documentation included in this from the planning commission meeting when this happened? Because it says in here that we were supposed to get it on the date of our hearing.
You didn't get it?
Is it been amended to the board packet? Because I don't have anything separate.
Okay, we'll show it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, I think I got the AV here figured out. My name is Sean Snow. I'm filling in for your recently departed Debbie Flynn. She used this presentation at the Planning Commission this past week. So this, of course, is covering the Trailers Direct Express rezone that Commission heard. So I'll be going over the information that she presented there. As I understand everything, and I've reviewed all of Debbie's work, would start out by saying that I concurred with her opinion on the utility of using the rezone for this property, which is in the northern part of Monument and the finger of land that stretches north along Beacon Light Road, just to the west of I-25. This map, of course, shows the location of that property, which is just currently at the northern limit of town of Monument. It's in that green rectangle on the north side of town. The existing zoning on this property is a PUD, and that PUD is associated with the prior company that was there, ABC Landscaping. As the information here says, the subject parcel was rezoned for ABC Landscaping as a PUD on August 17th, 2020. Permitted uses within the PUD are limited to warehousing, storage, and office space associated with a landscaping business. The single lot subdivision, ABC Landscaping, was recorded on September 30th, 2020. As a PUD, the information there, it's essentially strictly attributed to, or strictly covers any future uses. Pretty much have to be what the original PUDs outlined, which would be related to landscaping or whatever the exact wording is for that PUD. So subject property has been platted as Lot 1 of ABC Landscaping Warehouse Outdoor Storage, filing number 1. The Town of Monument, as stated here, will provide the water. Monument Sanitation District will provide wastewater services for Trailers Direct Express. The existing surrounding uses include Wolf Business Park, and of course to the north in an unincorporated El Paso County are similar uses to what is already found in this part of Monument. And that's generally light industrial uses. The applicant, of course, proposes to repurpose the existing site for outside storage and sales of new trailers. This type of use is not permitted within the existing PUD. As I stated, the existing PUD is related to a landscaping business. So approval of a rezoning is required. The proposed use is not unique, and their comprehensive plan recommends that this area as light industrial in the future land use plan. So we can talk a little bit about what's in the comprehensive plan. Some of the goals and policies related to this area, LU-3, which allows for a wider array of land use types to meet changing community needs. The existing PUD allows for limited uses. The light industrial rezone, however, while limiting uses, will also allow for a wider array of uses which are compatible with the industrial corridor that already exists along Beacon Light Road. I would add that the light industrial rezone would also, it would mean that you wouldn't have to continually amend a PUD for any use that occurs there in the future, since it's possible that the trailer business might only be there a couple of years, but it does comply with the light industrial characteristics of that area. Economic development, that's the next one, ED-C, continue to promote Monument as the business, shopping, service, and employment and activity hub for the Tri-Lakes region. The proposed rezone will further the objective of promoting Monument as the activity hub for the Tri-Lakes region. Using Debbie Flynn's information that she provided, staff recommends approval of Trailers Direct Express rezone based on the findings that I just went over, that the proposed rezone is in conformance with the review and approval criteria as outlined in section 18.03.140 of the Town of Monuments Land Development Code. This, of course, gives that information. Not expecting everyone to read this, but this is that section and also discusses the rezoning evaluation criteria that Debbie used when she described to the applicant options for doing a PUD amendment or doing just a straight rezone for this area. So of course, if the Board of Trustees approves this rezone, that means that you're agreeing with your own comprehensive plan, which states that this area is light industrial in nature, that the light industrial zone, in fact, gives the town stricter guidelines that the applicant has already agreed to include in their site development plan, which will actually go far beyond what the landscaping business has done to the site. The improvements will comply with the stricter light industrial zone qualifications that are part of your town comprehensive plan. And it also complies with the spirit of your advisory document, which is your comprehensive plan. So if you would agree with that, that would be to approve the rezoning of this area from the PUD to light industrial. If you voted against the rezone, I do believe maybe Mr. Rivera could reply to this part, but that would go back to the applicant, who would then follow a different process, likely to pursue a PUD amendment for the site, which by doing that, there would be likely less strict guidelines for what your own zoning definition already requires for a light industrial zone. So in other words, the light industrial zone is, from how I've read it and how Debbie read it and explained to me, the light industrial zone qualification has stricter criteria for the site than a typical PUD would be for just amending that site, amending the current PUD for the Trailers Direct Express.
Also, to answer your question, Trustee LaCon, on 9/13, the Planning Commission denied this 5-1. Some of the reasons that they used was due to they wanted it to come back as an amended PUD versus what was presented as a light industrial zone. They gave no specific conditions that they wanted to put on on an amended PUD, but a commissioner did state that this is not the proper use of a rezoning case and that it should have been presented as an amended PUD.
I can follow up on that piece. Your own comprehensive plan states that the applicants can have the option of pursuing amended PUD, or they can do a straight rezone. That your comprehensive plan is offering flexibility to the applicant to pursue either of those options, and this applicant chose to pursue the rezoning because, well, I can't say why, but they chose to pursue that, and it does align with the current state of your zoning map, which is light industrial in nature for that part of the town.
Okay. So to clarify, this was originally light industrial. We changed it to me, and I remember this meeting, we changed it to be a PUD for the landscaping business, which I don't believe I recall why that doesn't count as light industrial. Now we're wanting to put it back to the original comprehensive plan as light industrial. So we're changing the zoning because a yard with equipment and materials is different than a yard with equipment.
I know it sounds counterintuitive. The PUD simply means it's just a planning tool that can be used to really super define what you want a site to be, but sometimes it can be its own worst enemy because it's so well defined that really there are very few other options as the PUD is currently defined for the area for other light industrial uses to go in. So the PUD going in still complied with light industrial characteristics of that area. It just specifically, instead of using your town code to define what the landscaping business would look like, on that site. Instead, it used a specific definition that's legally tied to that plot of land.
Okay.
So what it has done is made it so strict that it's hard for another light industrial use to come in. So I think potentially Debbie's thought, or even the applicant's thought, is that this, going back to the light industrial zone, will offer flexibility into the future for the site to be improved using that classification. And unless the town decided to change the zoning for that whole area from light industrial to something else, right now, from now into the future, it will remain light industrial in nature. And in fact, the other uses to the north of there in the unincorporated El Paso County are very similar to what is already here. So and I'm not sure if that completely answers your question, but that's kind of where.
Right. So by changing it back, we stick with the comprehensive plan moving forward into the future. Rather, this company is here, so we're not doing this again.
That's essentially what's happening here. It sticks with the town's stricter definition of what light industrial means. And that means any future development of the site would still have to comply with whatever the town code says about light industrial developments on that site. And as it stands now, your light industrial criteria are fairly strict. It's stricter than what the PUD currently says. And so the new applicant will have to comply with your town, with Monument's stricter light industrial criteria, and the site, at least from an aesthetic point of view, will be much greater improved from what it looks like now.
Okay.
For example, they plan to do different types of paving and things like that, and right now it's not paved, and there are a number of other things they brought up at the planning commission meeting on how they plan to improve the site to comply with Monument's light industrial criteria.
Okay. Does the applicant have a presentation? Do you guys have a presentation, or are you just here to answer questions? Okay. Are there any questions for staff before we hear the applicant's presentation?
Yeah, I can't, I'm sorry if this is administrative or not, but the fact is that we don't have all the things from the planning commission meeting minutes in here like we would. The section that is typically listed as what the planning commission comments were are missing, and then there is a attachment for review that's supposed to be here regarding the planning commission meetings that says will be handed out at the Board of Trustee meeting, has not been done. I don't feel like we have enough info because from what I understand, that planning commission meeting was very contentious, and I would like to see the notes and have had the opportunity to review them, which I have not had the opportunity to review. And even the recommended motions don't say it's the board's motions, it says it's the planning commission's motion.
And
So
those aren't online yet either. They're not in the minutes.
Mr. Foreman, it says the draft meeting minutes with the recommended motion will be provided on the date of the Board of Trustees here.
If we didn't do it, I'm sorry. I'll have to ask Teresa. I don't know. She was supposed to do that today.
They're not even on,
Should be online.
they're not online.
Okay.
So, because I went to look, and they're not loaded into them. The last PC minutes are from.
I know the draft minutes were out on Friday. I saw them on Friday. But I know there's some issues with a couple of commissioners' statements on there that they had to free up today. And so I thought they were going to be in your packet today.
Before we get too far into it, before that, discussing more, does the board want this without the minutes?
I'd like to table it.
I second that.
So, can you, Mr. Rivera, do you see this as the appropriate motion, or am I missing something?
I think that my understanding is as follows, is that there is some material from the planning commission meeting that is usually in your packets that provides more detail regarding the rationale for the Planning Commission's decision, and that material is not available to you this evening. Is that correct? Based on that, I think that that a motion to continue would be appropriate if it's the board's decision. What I would like to is work with the applicant to identify a date certain to come back for this for the rescheduled
item.
hearing.
Okay.
I want to say to the applicant, I think that this is better for you because we know, we've heard what happened at the planning meeting, and to have that information here so that we can ask you all directly, you know, what's the plan for the trucks? What's the plan for the parking lot? It's more fair to you guys rather than for us to hear partial information.
So ideally, if we moved forward with a motion to table, ideally it would be the next meeting, which would be October 17th.
I'll have to look at that because you can only hear so many things on that day where I got things scheduled. So putting this off might put it off further than October 17th.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
I mean, yeah, could we hurry up and get some of that information and move this down the line in the agenda? Is that
One option would be a
If-
special meeting for just this matter.
Well, I think to Trustee Shaning's point, can we get a hold of those minutes and possibly recess for them?
I can try.
Okay.
Try.
So then, if you would like to try that, I would say we move this item to below items. Yeah.
Back after.
We could move it to after the executive session.
Did Erica just go run up to try to do this? Is
I think
that
she
what-
did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what I
wanna-
just instructed her to do.
Do you want to get through the resolutions and see where she's at with this?
I think that'll,
Yeah,
does that
that-
work for the board?
That works for me.
So,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, could you make a motion and that would clear on the record what's happening?
okay, so we just need a motion to move this item to later in the meeting?
Yes, to a specific spot, please.
Okay, would somebody make the motion to move this item?
Make a motion to move this item to after resolution 6A, B, and C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee Romanella,
Yes.
trustee Shaning,
Yes.
trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
trustee LaKind.
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. It will be moved to later in the meeting. At this point, that takes us to resolution number 68, 2022, subplat for investing in Front Street. And the presenter is,
Mr. Jake.
go ahead, sir.
Okay, moving on to another one of the presentations that Debbie Flynn put together that was from Planning Commission. So I'm repurposing her presentation to share with you this evening. This is, of course, as you just mentioned, a public hearing on resolution number 68-2022, a resolution approving a subdivision plat for investing in Front Street. This land, of course, is located, as many of you know, on the northwest corner of Second Street and Front Street in Monuments historic downtown area. The map that you see shows the polygon of the site and that location. This one has conventional zoning. That's a straight zoning designation called Downtown Business District. So the development will have to comply with that zoning criteria. Town of Monument will provide water, and Monument Sanitation District will provide wastewater services for all development within investing in Front Street. Project summary as follows. The polygon that you just saw covers 1.15 acres. This would consist of 15 lots. Lots range in size from over 2,000 square feet to just around 8,000 square feet. This would be 6 structures of townhome style residential units, that should say. It's a mixed-use development containing residential units. It also contains a mixed-use development with residential units over commercial retail spaces. So it's a mixture of both of those 2 bullet points. The direct access off Front Street and Second Street, as the map showed. Parking for the residential units is provided with attached garages. And then, of course, parking for the mixed-use areas will be a combination of on-street parking with off-street parking located both on-street and in an adjacent town lot. This plat is consistent with the town's land development code section 18.02.230.c, and all applicable code standards are met. I reviewed what Debbie had put together, and I also concurred with everything that she found. This includes information from your town's, from the town's comprehensive plan. That includes the goals set forth from that comprehensive plan, which I'll go ahead and read through those. For the audience's benefit as well, that includes LU-A. This goal says with 2,389 gross acres of land available for development, the future land use plan provides an opportunity to move from single-use developments to a mix of complementary land uses. These uses can be developed into various activity nodes, thereby ensuring an appropriate balance of live, work, and play environments. Another goal set forth in the comprehensive plan, LU-F, reinforce downtown's role as a Tri-Lakes Regional Center with its concentration of government offices, not-for-profit agencies, educational facilities, and unique local shops and restaurants to attract additional businesses. Specific policies as outlined in the comprehensive plan that includes LU-3, which states allow for a wider array of land use types to meet changing community needs. LU-5, promote infill development on vacant land with attention to the vacant or underutilized land in and around the downtown core. And LU-7, reinforce downtown's role as a community and Tri-Lakes Regional Center with specialty shopping, entertainment, recreation, and special events. Staff recommendation, staff recommends approval of investing in Front Street subdivision plat based on the findings that the proposed plat is in conformance with the review and approval criteria for a plat as outlined in section 18.02.230.c of the Town of Monuments Land Development Code. This slide outlines the process in Monuments Land Development Code for changes in plats and what's needed to comply with that. So I'm not going to go through all these details, but I think Debbie included it to show that the process is being followed for this process. Plat approval criteria goes through all the language in the Land Development Code from section 18.02.230.c as stated. And we come to questions.
So again, we don't have any planning commission meeting minutes on this. Was this approved in planning commission?
Yes, it was.
Okay, was there any stipulations?
No, sir.
Okay.
It wasn't.
I think that's different than the last one.
Yeah, Planning Commission had questions related to parking and things like that. And we had the applicant here to answer questions on that, but it was approved.
Okay. Questions from the board?
The applicant's not here tonight, correct?
Yes.
Oh,
the applicant is here. Yes.
I wanted to clarify something that we'd received a lot of emails and some of what?
Or is this a question for the applicant?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a presentation from the applicant? Okay, go ahead.
So, we have had a lot of emails directed our way in the last week, and one of the common themes of the emails that I was receiving about reinvesting, or what is it, reinvesting in Front Street, is that in our packet, one of the initial plans, the initial letter, it says attainable housing, and I believe some people confuse that with affordable or subsidized housing, but you can clarify there's no subsidization happening here. Thank you. Thank you.
One of the other things that came up in the emails was this is going to be a 3-story building. 2-story all the way around. Is that including shops below the two? So is it a shop and then 2 stories, or is it just 2 stories including the shop? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board before we open this up to public comment? Okay. This is a public hearing item, so is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Sir?
Hello, my name is Paul Bellinghausen, and I was at the meeting last week, and it's a little confusing of what we're seeing today, because I thought that they said there were going to be 8 townhouses and then a building with 6 apartments and then shops underneath it. So I need some clarification on that. But according to this thing, there's 15 lots, and they're counting on parking in garages, but we all know that people don't park in their garages. So this project looks like you're going to have 15 lots. You have to assume that people are going to have an average of 3 cars, not just 2 cars, but an average of 3 cars. And that's before people visit. So for this small little plat, you're going to have a minimum of 45 to 51 cars at any one time. And they're expecting it to be parked on Front Street. And Front Street has a snow removal program. So that means they wouldn't be able to park there during snow removal. So where do those cars go? So their presentation is that they would park, I guess, overfill parking by the lake or by the park. And that would take up where people are already parking now. So where is the spill off going to be? So this project should have a containment to where you can only build so many structures where the parking is within that plat and not on the off-street parking.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make comment on this item? Mr. Anderson, do we have anyone online who would like to make comment on this item? Okay. Ms. Williams, you may come off mute to make your comment on subplat for investing in Front Street.
Hopefully I'm doing this right. I'm Maggie
We can hear
Williamson.
you.
You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, with Ballard and Frame. And I would like to say that this is a fantastic plan that these people are doing with the townhouses and the stores. As you can see, we always losing stores in downtown Monument. We are not a community that people flock to our stores. So the more stores and townhouses that are, or not necessarily apartments. I love the townhouse idea. There's a lot of parking all around there that you guys have built, that the town has built. So I don't think parking will be a problem. And as a business owner, I think we need all the businesses that we can have in downtown Monument so we can survive. So I am for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, our next online speaker. Okay. Ginger, if you would like to come on off mute and make public comment in regards to investing in Front Street subdivision plat.
Hello, I'm Ginger Geigley, and I was on the meeting last week via online, and I do also have parking lot concerns. I believe someone mentioned that the plan is 14% shy of the recommended parking. While the applicant had mentioned the neighboring lot, there was also a comment about no overnight parking on Front Street, so that would not be allowed. And then I believe from the drawings they had, the townhomes had garages underneath the home. And I don't know if anyone can verify that's correct, but the drawing itself looked like there was just 2 businesses there. And then, so my concern with that was that there's not enough parking for the businesses and also anyone parking in a garage because the driveways looked fairly short. So I would be interested in knowing what are the businesses, how many parking spaces are required for the businesses, and then also the information on the housing and the businesses conflicting with parking.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, do we have anyone else online wishing to speak? Okay. 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 Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Amy Robinson. We're sitting out in the hall, some of us. But my curiosity is, and I don't know if it's already been shown, but if there's any elevations to show that this goes along with the town plan and if this is going to enhance the space and if we're going to be changing downtown Monument. I know there's been some talk about trying to get every business kind of looking the same or having a feel when you drive into downtown Old Monument. So just because we're out there, I haven't seen anything. Is there any elevations to show or what it might look like?
Not at this time. This is just a subdivision plat.
So that would be a concern, I think, for people with what it will look like, you know, if it's going to enhance downtown Monument and if we had any elevations to show on that.
That will come in the later process. Thank you. Anyone else who would like to make public comment? Mr. Kimple?
Evening. Ken Kimple, 16151 St. Lawrence Way. I'm not saying I'm for or against a project. I just think, just like the other applicant, you guys don't have all the information in front of you. So best business practice and fair across the board is to table this until you have all the information in front of you. There was a huge discussion at the Planning Commission meeting about traffic, about parking, entry, exit points, and not having enough spaces. And I think all those details need to be brought forth to the Board of Trustees, all those comments. So there's no liability issue when you make your final determination. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment on this item? Ms. Hayes?
Terry Hayes, Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce. This project is 100% exactly what we need downtown. Our comprehensive plan says mixed use, very clear mixed use. Mixed use helps all of our businesses downtown, including the restaurants, the shops, everything. It creates a great environment of people walking and being engaged. And the more that people are engaged, the more other people want to be engaged in there. A lot of these questions tonight, as you mentioned before, will be addressed later. That's not the place for it right now, and they can be addressed. So this is something that I just can't even be more excited about this. Some of the exciting things that our citizens want to be brought to town. This is that. This is more retail. This is more shops coming to downtown. That's going to make it really an interesting, great place to visit. Right now, we have a big empty lot down there and one big red barn with fire trucks parked in it. So I think a much better use of that is to bring some downtown shops and to bring some downtown residents. That will make it a little more lively and a great place to visit. So it's exactly what our comprehensive plan is. This is exactly what we need downtown. And you guys can make sure all the other parts fall into place as the process goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion of this item and allow the applicant to come up and address any concerns they would like to address.
Good afternoon. My name is Brandon Pappas. I'm the representative from Bucher Design Studio, the architect of record working on this project. We're addressing a need in downtown Monument. There needs to be more residential opportunities for people to move into our community. There needs to be more retail opportunities for businesses to move into our community. And that's what we're trying to provide with this project. There are concerns about parking and there are some concerns about the traffic, and both of those have been addressed, and we have a full traffic study that has been produced. We are within the town ordinances of the parking required, and this is something that as we move forward, we will be able to provide more information and address the concerns about how this might look. We have elevations, we have site models, so those will be provided shortly here. There seems to be some confusion about how the site is laid out and what the project roughly is. So in a brief overview, on the west side of the lot, we have 3 buildings. All 3 of those buildings will be residential. They are townhome style. The living units are on top, and we have the garages on the main level. The 3 buildings on the east side of the site are going to be mixed use. They're going to have residential units atop and retail units below. They vary in size. This is my first town meeting, so if I seem nervous, I am a little bit. All of you are fantastic, though. Our largest buildings are 3 units, and the 3 residential units will be over 3 retail units. All those buildings will be 2,790 square feet, and our smaller developments, which will just be 2 residential units over 2 retail units, it will be 1,890 square feet. So all of these are relatively modest sized buildings. What we're trying to do is just work within the fabric of this downtown area and provide a need for growth in the community.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for the applicant or town staff?
Earlier, I heard, but I can't see it in the packet. They said 14% shy of parking. Do you know what that number was referring to?
And I think I don't think we're there yet. Am I correct in that?
Not on this part of the.
Right, we're just approving the area.
But
I don't understand
cover
that.
how much parking they would have available on that plat, would it not?
That would come with final plat, wouldn't it?
Was this something that was in the notes that we do not currently have? Because I just don't see anything about 14% shy of parking. So
That's
something
because
I'm
that's
supposed to
what
know about.
I'm saying is we're not addressing parking right now. They haven't done their traffic study yet.
Well, he said they did their traffic
They
study.
did a traffic.
Oh, that the,
Study has been conducted and the final plat has been approved.
Final plat has been approved?
no,
No.
Not the final plat.
So we did a traffic study and we repeated the traffic study at a higher level. Debbie, and we were told all of the parking was addressed as recommended. And so we worked with the development of the plot really closely with Debbie and lines of what was requested. So I'm unaware of the faults or and what was going to be plot parking. But the requirements for the businesses apartments is all it counts. You have 21 lots with 21 parking spots would be about the 2 houses.
Our understanding is what the town owns across the back.
the microphone, please.
Our understanding from Debbie and meetings is that with the townhomes across the back, it's required, there's 1.5 parking stalls per unit, and we have 2. We've designed this Friends designed this where there's 2 parking spots inside the garage and then living quarters above to rectify that.
And what you heard, the 14% was from a citizen, not from staff or
Yeah,
not
I
from,
agree.
not from consultants at all.
Okay.
Yep.
So I just want to clarify that the 14, thank you for explaining, but the 14% is not something that I would see in the notes if we had the planning commission notes.
No,
It wouldn't discuss it that.
but there's no study that shows that there's 14% less parking that's required by our code. That was a calculation done by the vice chairman.
Okay,
We don't know what that was based on.
other questions from the board, from staff or the applicant?
You're sure that
Okay,
So all these issues will be addressed when you come back for the final plat, and we'll see the elevations, we'll see the parking, garages, or kind of how all that's done.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
okay, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion. This is public hearings closed. Thank you. Not during public comment. Thank you. Bring it back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
I'll move to approve resolution 68, 2022, a resolution approving a subdivision plat for investing in Front Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Shaning?
Yes.
Trustee Ramos?
I mean, maybe I'm new here, but is there something in the planning commission notes that we don't have that I'm supposed to be seeing right now? Because if we were moving,
So the planning commission approved it. There were no stipulations. So there may have been comments that were not based on anything that wouldn't be relative to actual evidence, I think is what Mr. Foreman's trying to say.
You have the minutes in front of you now. They've been passed out.
No, we haven't. We weren't shuffling papers while people were
Okay.
trying to make comments, so we stopped that.
We've emailed them to you now, and we've tried to get them to you as quickly as we
Okay.
could.
We have a motion on the floor, so we need to finish out that motion.
I'm not comfortable voting until I understand what I am missing is all I'm saying. I'm not saying a yes or no. I just want to be clear that there's not something that I was supposed to see. I mean, I'm newer in this position. I want to understand what I am missing, because just the general idea of that there was something for me to read that I didn't get is a little worrisome to me. So
All I can tell you is I was at that meeting and they discussed parking and they voted 7-0 to approve the project. And
There was
I
one
passed out the
question
minutes.
About the overnight parking. That was
Right.
certainly one thing. And and you
I
addressed that.
informed them, they wanted to know if they could have overnight parking on Front Street. That was one of the commissioners asked that, and I said no, because that's a snowplow route. And so during the winter seasons, when we have snows, you can't park overnight there, and that is signed. Front Street is signed for no overnight parking.
And at the same time, this is not a final plat.
But currently they need 1.5 per unit and they have 2. So they have,
They
More
meet
than-
the parking standards, yes.
okay, I will say yes.
Trustee Romanella?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee LaKind?
What are we voting on? Yes.
Approval of resolution number 68 to 2022.
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. That takes us to resolution number 69, 2022, reinstatement of the amendment and reinstatement of Willow Springs Metro District Service Plan.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me, while we're in a break, right, we're in between,
No,
get these passed out or not yet?
we will recess after these resolutions to read them and pass them out.
So we're clear. Thank you.
Do we have the same presenters for this item? The service plan?
Show this sheet.
So I don't have the benefit of any notes on this for Willow Springs Metropolitan District. I don't actually have a presentation for you specifically. Should presenters here? Perfect. Okay. So right up over here.
Did you send it to Drew? Because I didn't get it. You did?
Okay, at this point, we're going to take a 15-minute break and pass out some information that the board has gotten, and we will come back in 15 minutes and see if we have some things sorted out. So at this time, we're in recess. What are we supposed to have here? 5 pages?
I think 3. I think it started out getting passed out improperly.
Yeah, it got-
I think there's 3 pages. They make it.
So is this, okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Only got the odds of the things.
Right. They started as onesies and then they finally got it collated in the middle and it just got all jacked up.
I got some.
I have 1, 2. In continuing, resolution number 69, 2022, reinstatement of Willow Springs Metro District Service Plan.
Yes, apologies on the confusion on the PowerPoint we got. We've got everything called up. As you can see, the PowerPoint is up, and Sean Allen, who's general counsel to the Willow Springs Metropolitan District, is here to present.
Can we wait till they?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Sean Allen, on behalf of the Willow Springs Ranch Metropolitan District, General Counsel to the district. We're here tonight to request a first amendment to the service plan for the Willow Springs Ranch Metro District. Next slide, please. So this is the location of where the district is, the project. You see it's west of I-25 and north of Baptist Road and Forest Lakes Drive. And it's roughly about a little over 100 acres of the residential project itself and over 100 acres of the open space trails. So it's a little, not quite 50-50, but a little more on the open space in the project. Next slide, please. So the original service plan was approved by the town back in 2008. It was with a different owner at the time, different project, different concept. Then 08, 09, the recession hit, the project went dead. Set, land has changed ownership, and today you have your new owner, your new developer. They started the project in 2020 to get, and then the pandemic obviously hit. So you had someone else's vision back in 2008, and then you have today's vision of a different group, a different project. And so it necessitates an amendment to the service plan to make it fit the project as it looks today versus what it looked like back in 2008. Next slide, please. So the crux of the purpose of this is a debt limit increase. Costs have increased significantly for this project. It's 14 years later. The cost structure back in 2008, different project versus today's project. So in order to have the district right size to fit the cost that it has to do for the public infrastructure, we need a debt limit increase to go from what it was in 2008 to what it needs today in 2022. And with that increase in debt limit, so you update your financing plan, which we've done so in our submission. Estimated cost, we have an exhibit for that shows what the costs are today. The debt limit necessary to support those costs, and that's what we're seeking, is that debt limit that right sizes to these cost increase. And I want to make it clear that there's no change in the authorized mill levy. It's the same as the town approved back in 2008. So we're asking for more debt, but not more mill levy power to pay for that debt. Next slide, please. So what is changing? It's really these costs. You see in 2008, they're about $9.5 million. In 2022, the public infrastructure cost alone is a little over 31 million. The total project cost is a little over 44 million. And again, back in 2008, with roughly a $10 million cost, $10 million debt limit, now you have a little over 31 million in public infrastructure costs. So seeking a debt limit that syncs with that cost of to 30 million. Next slide, please. Thank you. Again, we have about 100 acres of residential development, 399 approved units. Starting price is around 525 all the way up to a little over $1 million. Estimated population will be a little over 1,000 when it's built out. Built out is projected to reach in 2025. Public improvement instruction began in summer of 2020. And of course, that was in the heart of the first year of the pandemic. And so that has slowed some things, added to the cost, supply chain, and so forth. First homes actually started closing earlier this year, and I believe we're up to 18 closed homes in the project already out of the nearly 400 approved. Next slide, please. Infrastructure and development costs have been significant out here. Again, 44 million total project costs. 30 of those are the public infrastructure costs. In our submission, the first amendment, we have an exhibit that details some of those estimated costs at the 31 million. Really, Baptist Road, there's costs associated with that. These are just the highlights. Willow Ranch Road, you have your roundabout, your collectors, sanitary sewer, water lines, you have your lift station, your force main. So unlike, or very similar to, a town public works project where you see cost increase, this development has seen cost increase as well. Next slide, please. So to support those costs, we've updated our financing plan, and this is the 2022 financing plan. Again, it's the crux of it is seeking a $30 million debt limit versus the $10 million that is authorized today. No change to the 30-year maturity on debt that would be issued. 30-year was required by the town back in 2008, not changing that. The big thing to note is no change in the authorized mill levy. It was 50 in 2008, still 50 today. The impact of that 50 mills, just to give an idea on the $500,000 house, it's about a little over $1,800 a year, about $156 a month to pay those 50 mills on a $500,000 house at the current assessment ratio, which is 7.15%. But as we've seen over time, that assessment ratio has been dropping. And the next 2 years, it's going to drop below 7%, it's going to be like 6.95%. And the mill levy adjustment, just as that drops down, slight increase in the mill levy to keep the revenue the same essentially. And that's the mill levy adjustment. So it's 50 mills adjusted. And that adjustment goes for, as the state changes the residential assessment ratio, then the mill levy adjusts up, and it's no change because they're imposing a smaller percentage on the actual value, which would generate less revenue. So to offset that, you increase the mill levy, but that's the adjustment. And it used to be called Gallagher adjustment, and it's now just called legislative adjustment. In the submission, we have a model for the next bonding. The current debt was issued in 2019, and it was at 5% on the senior and 7 3/4 on the junior. And the refinancing that will occur will be take out that higher rate debt, add costs to cover the additional cost that we've seen. So a larger debt, but at a much lower rate. And again, without a mill levy change. Next slide, please. And so how do people find out about all this? Well, tonight's hearing obviously was the first in this request for a change. We mailed out notice to the property owners. We mailed out notice to the 3 mile entities. We published notice. To the property owners, you request from the county, the assessor, and they give you a list. Here's the property owners. But we knew that there are homes that are closing, and there's a lag between home closing when the county catches up to you. So we went and asked the builders, give us your closing list so that we can make sure that we hit all the homes within the window that we have to give notice. And that's a 20 to 30 day window before tonight's hearing. That was our magic window. And so we ordered those lists. We supplemented what we knew the county was not fully up to speed. So there's your disclosure for how do people find out even about it starting tonight. But going forward, you have an annual report. So every year we do an annual report. The very first one was recorded back in 2008, and each year we submit another annual report and give the updates. There's been some changes in the laws the last couple of years, more transparency. It's called a Section 809 transparency notice. That goes to the SDA, the Special District Association, Division of Local Government. It goes to the county. We'll even post it on the district website. And that talks about meetings of the district, who the directors are, what's the mill levy, when's the next director election, so residents say, how do I find out about this district that I'm in? Websites are now mandatory for districts. We have until January 1st of next year, 2023, to get your website up and running. That's a new law. Before, you weren't required to have a website, but there will be, and there is a website for this district, and you populate it with certain items like the budget, the audit, who the directors are, what's the mill levy, those sort of things. So again, more transparency, and that's come out of the last few years of changes at the state level. And also there's a change in the law for new home builders disclosures. Even the builder has to give disclosure about the district if they're building new product. And so they contact the district, we give them the information that they're required to populate their notice, and then those go out through the builder themselves. So lots of disclosure out there for districts today. In terms of, some people say, I didn't even know I was in a district, but the state has gotten a lot better at more notice required, more transparency. Next slide, please. So any service plan, be it your original service plan or your amendment, you have to have compliance with Title 32, which is the Special District Act. On the left side of your screen, you see the requirements that you have to have. description of services, financial plan, engineering, so forth. On the right side of your screen is how did we comply with that? 2008, every box was checked because we had to check all those boxes back in 2008. For 2022, it's just the boxes that are triggered by any change that we're doing with this amendment. We're not describing new services because we didn't need to for the amendment. We do have a new financing plan because we're showing that to support the debt limit increase. We have new engineering because we have new engineering costs. And so we have a couple of boxes checked again, specifically for this amendment. And the bottom on your left is establishing approval criteria by law, state law. And we have, back in 2008, and again here tonight, this is your approval criteria for you as a board that you need to think about. Is there sufficient and existing projected need for the district services? Well, we have 399 approved homes. We have infrastructure costs. We have operation and maintenance and covenant enforcement of the project. So there are sufficient services that this district is performing. The next criteria you have to decide is existing services needed by the development from other government entities. Back in 2008, the town, no other district stepped forward and said, we'll pay for those infrastructure costs. No one today is stepping forward and said, we'll pay for those infrastructure costs. The districts were created to pay for those infrastructure costs. So we need the district. The last two, items 3 and 4, is just basically showing through the financing plan that there is a need and there's the capacity of the district to support that need and support that financing that it's presenting. And so we have our financial consultant here tonight. If you have any questions about what does that financing look like? What does this bond refinance? What does the larger bonding look like? And so we have that there today. So we met the approval criteria in 2008, and we're meeting it again here tonight in 2022. Some of it is piggybacking on the 2008 approval as well. Next slide, please. Oh, I apologize. Next slide. That was the approval criteria. One more, please. Thank you. So summarize, this is the request. It is a request for approval of the First Amendment to the service plan for the Willow Springs Ranch Metropolitan District. In a nutshell, that amendment is a debt limit increase to support the increase in costs that have occurred within this project.
Okay, is there any question from the board for staff or the applicant?
In 2008, you took debt out to the tune of how much?
10 million.
And did you build out infrastructure with that 10 million?
A portion of it, yes. $10 million worth out of now 31 million. Yes.
So you, after you built out that infrastructure, you stopped.
No, did not stop.
You continued building infrastructure.
Correct.
But you didn't have more money taken out.
No, it's on developer advance.
So now the expectation is to increase your debt limit on, so that the homeowners that will move into your houses will pay back debt that you incurred decades ago?
No, the debt was issued in 2019.
What about the 2008 debt?
There was no debt in 2008. It was authorized, but we did not issue it. The project went black, dark.
Okay, because that's what I asked originally, and you said you.
Oh, my apologies.
Okay, so you took debt out in 2019.
That was the first issuance, yes.
Okay.
And those funds obviously were spent, and there's still expenditures to go for the now 31 million of infrastructure.
I understand. Thank you.
My apologies for the
Sorry.
confusion.
Trustee Stevens?
So you're tripling your debt overhead. No doubt interest rates have gone up, but your mill levy is not being increased. So you're, if I understand this right, you're expecting to make that money up based off of the appreciation of the value of the homes that are going to be in that area?
Yes, the capacity of the district is determined by both by the mill levy limitation that's imposed, as well as the value that is created from the construction of the homes. And those homes are from 500,000 to a little over $1 million. Of course, those will appreciate over time. And so that's where you're able to repay that debt from the mill levy applied to that value that's built within the district.
Okay, and in regards to the infrastructure build out, you say you've already started it. Has that plan changed any, or is it pretty much the same as it was before?
Before being
What, 2008?
Oh, no, it's different from 2008 was a totally different group. Different, different project, different, and with this current project that has gone forward, that's been approved, even the town has asked for, well, put in the roundabout, do the double loop. So even the town over, in the last few years has said, let's do some different scope of those costs. So 2008, you can almost throw that developer, that owner, that application out the window in the sense of what were the costs then, what did the project look like, how much was to be built, how many homes were to be built, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
All we're voting on right now is to allow the expansion of the debt limit for that. Thank you.
This is a public hearing item. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on the reinstatement of Willow Springs Metro District Service Plan? Seeing none, Mr. Anderson, do we have anyone online that would like to speak to this item? Okay, at this point, I will close the public hearing portion. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Ms. Fatora?
Hi, just a question. I just looked this up and it showed 1,100 homes. Was that the same number of new homes going to our same schools in Jackson Creek that they had in 2008?
Okay, is that the extent of your comment?
Yes.
Thank you. This time we'll close the public hearing portion of this item. And does the applicant have any rebuttal for public comments?
Question, they indicated 1,100 homes. The estimated population is about 1,100. The homes is 399.
And that has, and that doesn't have anything to do with the reinstatement of the service plan, correct? Okay. Any other questions, comments, or a motion from the board?
I'll move to approve resolution number 69, 2022, a resolution of the town of Monument to approve the amendment and reinstatement to the Willow Springs Metropolitan District Service Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Ramos?
Yes.
Trustee LeKind?
Yes.
Trustee Chaining?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Romanella?
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. That takes us to resolution number 70, 2022, setting a hearing date for consideration of an annexation. Mr. Rivera.
I will provide the basis and the reason for the redo, and then you'll hear from the planner regarding the factual findings. So just to remind the board, the annexation occurs in three parts. There's the two resolutions and an ordinance. The first resolution is a resolution finding that there is making a preliminary finding that there is a sufficient basis to consider the annexation. That's what's before you today, the first step, a preliminary finding, giving way to allowing for a hearing to be set. That hearing is to be set on November 7th, 2022. And then at the hearing, after the board makes the findings necessary for the annexation, then the board can pass an ordinance. So it's three steps, two resolutions followed by an ordinance. This is the first step, the resolution. Then the question is, why are we doing this over again? So this matter was originally set for tonight's hearing, and it was moved late in the game to the 9/6 hearing, the 9/6 hearing date. And then we found out that there was a reason that it was originally set for 9/19, and that was statute 3112-108. And basically that statute requires that there be at least 30 days and not more than 60 days between the hearing, the date that you approve the hearing, and the actual hearing. And the reason for both the limitation and the amount of time and the cap is because there's a tremendous amount of public notice that goes out. There's notices that go out to neighboring towns, school districts, and such. And in order to fix this, we had basically two options. One was to continue the hearing to comply with the time limit, or the second option was just to reset it, to redo it. And I thought the more appropriate and transparent option was to just redo it. So you're essentially making the same findings that you made on 9/6 for the sole purpose of complying with that 30-day to 60-day window. You have before you in your packet the same materials that you had before you on 9/6. And if you have any questions, please direct them to the planner.
Was this not already set for November 7th?
No, yeah, I'm sorry. November 6th was the original hearing date for the resolution. And then that set, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. This was originally heard on 9/6, and it set on 9/6, 11/7 for the second step. However, that is more than 60 days out. And that's the problem.
Okay, I see. Okay. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Okay.
So in the language of the resolution, it indicates it's just for an annexation.
Mhm.
And yet, in the attachments that have come with it, there's also language for rezoning. Why would the language not indicate the rezoning if that's to come up at the hearing that we're setting a date for?
The land is presently El Paso County land. And it's being annexed at the request of the landowners into the town of Monument. As part of the annexation process, it's a best practice to designate the zoning designation for that incorporated land so that everybody knows the situation. And so presently, the annexation agreement establishes a zoning category. I don't know that off the top of my head. However, that's something that can still be negotiated with the petitioning landowner regarding that particular zoning designation. Does that answer your question?
So our zoning isn't the same as the county,
No.
so we would have to zone it
You
as
basically have to zone it.
something.
It's in county as, it's not ag land, but that's the easiest example. It's in the county as commercial land, I believe. And now we have to, if we're annexing it into the town, we need to annex it into the town and then bestow upon it a town zoning designation.
My question is about the language of the resolution, the title. The title indicates it's an annexation. The hearing date that we're setting for November 7th, now for the second time, indicates there'll be a zoning component of this item. So why does the language not reflect the true nature of what's being set for November 7th?
Because it's the same thing. You would not annex anything and not give it zoning. What would you annex and say
It's
there's
just
no?
Semantics, it's language. We're telling the public, we're setting a hearing for an annexation. Why would we not also say, and oh, by the way, we're going to set the zoning at the same time?
Because that's what you would have to.
So it's best practices to set the zoning. I guess I still don't understand your question.
The text below where it says 70-2022, a resolution initiating annexation and setting a hearing date. Why does it not say initiating annexation and zoning?
Now I understand your question. I guess the answer is I've done several annexations and this is actually the same resolution I've done over and over again, and I've never thought to add that. Thank you for that comment.
I was just wondering. And the zoning will come up at that hearing.
Yes, the zoning will be discussed at the hearing, and then it can be discussed further at the ordinance. And basically what you decide is whether to accept their petition for annexation. And part of the criteria that you can use to determine that is how well it fits into the town. And as part of an annexation, there's an annexation agreement. And the way I've handled these in the past is that basically everything in the annexation agreement is up for negotiation.
Thank you.
So when we have that hearing, is there any option for us to say, okay, we'll annex you, but we don't want this zoning?
I think it's the best practice to have as much detail as possible in place upon annexation so that there's no unclear expectations on either side. So my recommendation would be to have as much of those questions, many of those questions answered as possible regarding what type of zoning will be bestowed upon this by the town, things like that. How much are the contributions? What are the contributions of the landowner? Things like that.
And one thing in addition to that, you have to remember, they're in the county today. And so they're in a zoning that allows them to build what they want to today in the county. What we're trying to do is annex them into the town so that we have control over what's going to be built on that land.
Well, I read that most of the zoning that they have over there is now completely obsolete. And so they have to get rezoning by the county anyways.
Well, we'd have to talk to the county commissioners
So,
about
'cause
that.
CC is no longer a valid zone. So if we were to, for example, say, well, we will annex you, but we don't want to rezone this as high density multifamily units, do we have that option?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that, it gives us
So that's
control
something
over
we
that.
discussed.
If you look at, you look at what's happened over in Woodmore today, some of the things that are built right on I-25, we have absolutely no control over that, and the county allowed that with their current zoning.
So, okay, so the way that this is going to be written and presented to us on November 7th, it's not going to be written as one continuous ordinance where it's rezoning and annexation. Or I mean, annexation and rezoning. We could say, okay, let's annex this land, but this zoning's not correct.
I think a better way to think about it would be that you would have before you a resolution and an ordinance, but the most important components would be the annexation agreement attached to both of those. And that there's a document, it's called an annexation agreement. And it's an agreement, the contract between the landowner and the town that designates all of the details of the annexation.
Okay, so then let me ask this a different way. If we were to say, we don't want this particular rezoning, then does the annexation fall through? Given that some of their zoning over there with the county is now obsolete.
If the property owner decided that he didn't agree with your aspect of zoning and he didn't want to come into the town, yes, it would fall through.
Yeah, or stated slightly differently, if there's nobody, if neither party agrees to sign the annexation agreement won't come to pass, and so the annexation won't come to pass.
But the bottom line is we have some room for negotiations on the 7th.
And yeah, I mean, you have tremendous opportunities for negotiation.
Any other questions from the board?
The landowner is requesting this annexation because they're hoping to come to the town. I'm assuming they understand they'll pay a little bit more in terms of taxes, but then maybe they'll get a zoning or a better chance of getting zoning approved. Is that why some of them volunteer?
You know, you could, I think that the petition for annexation, which is in your packet, provides some information about why they want to annex. I think the annexation agreement will provide a lot of information regarding what they expect to achieve from the annexation. And just one clarifying point, there are two different landowners. So Monument West is owned entirely by one landowner, and then Monument East is entirely owned by a different landowner.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions from the board, I will look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 70, 2022, resolution initiating annexation and setting a hearing for the Board of Trustees to consider annexation of the area known as Monument Ridge West and East annexation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Romanella?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee LeKind?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Shaning?
Yes.
Trustee Ramos?
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. This takes us back to ordinance number 17, 2022. Do the board members feel they had sufficient time to read the notes provided from the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Okay. Would the board like to pick up where we left off or represent? Okay. We left off with, yeah, where did we leave off?
I believe the applicant was about to present.
Okay. I think you are. Thank you. So if the applicant would like to come up and present.
Chadwin Cox, owner, Western Engineering Consultants, representing Craig Owens and Trainers Direct Express. Thank you, Mr. Snow, for your presentation earlier. And thank you, well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and honorable members of trustees of the board. We appreciate the opportunity to get to present tonight. So thank you for taking that recess and getting those minutes so that you could have everything we needed to give us an opportunity to be heard. Just want to bounce down a few different things. Trailers Direct Express wishes to rezone from PUD to light industrial in order to bring a national trailers sales business to Monument. The site address is 18955 Beacon Light Road here in Monument. Lot 1 of ABC Landscaping Warehouse Outdoor Storage Final 1. The 5.02 acre property has been for the past few years a landscape business and outdoor storage yard that is a typical industrial zone use, but only allowed by site-specific PUD standards. I've worked in multiple jurisdictions for the past 25 years, and just for the discussion of PUD and Mr. Snow certainly should have a chance to give his further opinion. Municipalities create their zoning codes so that they have very straightforward criteria for which development can occur. It simplifies. In any event that I've ever been, any project we've been involved with when it came to a PUD, it was to create special rules or criteria for a site that doesn't fit in those categories. So I want to, in my experience, a PUD is meant to, it's a useful tool in order to fit something into a non, that doesn't match the zoning code. So it's a more of an exception to the rule rather than the rules is what I'm trying to stress. In general, wanted to add the ABC site has been there since 2020. It's an existing building. There's existing piles of materials outside. Mr. Owens is not a developer. This is he's not proposing to take a vacant site and develop it. He's proposing to take it and bring his business to it to generate sales tax for the town of Monument. Currently has an operation. The headquarters is in Moore, Oklahoma. Their trailer lot is in Norman, Oklahoma. They have a new facility in Bennett, Colorado, and another one in Hardersville, Georgia. Want to stress that the trailers that are going to be staged here for sales are all brand new, and they're high quality, top end trailers that are pulled by pickups, SUVs. They're not semi trailers. They're not large equipment like that. They're specifically for carpenters, cargo trailers for, I have a cargo trailer, to move things from one place to another. I want to also point out, as Mr. Snow mentioned, the PUD, as can be seen by the ABC landscape site, there's no detention pond. Screening, basically, it's just the existing vegetation that was on the site. The entry isn't paved. The entry gate isn't set back. There's not a criteria in place for that PUD right now that wouldn't allow them to utilize the entire 100% of the property, as I understand the PUD. The straight zoning code that the town already has in place of light industrial limits this property to 40% coverage, which in my experience is great for the town because then it leaves the 60% open, for screening, for landscape, for existing or native vegetation. But typical properties, commercial and industrial, Adams County, they have 90% coverage. Centennial Airport, we've done about 8 different hangars there, and they have 75% coverage. So what I'm trying to stress here is that agreeing with the former planner and Mr. Snow, this light industrial code really does constrain this property, to some very strict criteria. So that, I mean, ultimately as a trailer sales, he would love to have more trailers distributed upon it. But he wants to be here in Monument, so he's agreed to the light industrial and that limit of 40%. As mentioned before, if you've seen the site, there's a cluster of trees in the middle south side of the building. Those are going to be replanted per town criteria every 25 feet along the northern and southern boundaries. In addition to the existing number of trees, which I had in here. Let's see here, 23 are existing, and they're, in order to meet that criteria, they're going to have to install another 54. So there's a significant amount of landscape that's going to be placed on the northern and southern borders in order to screen that property and meet town code. As mentioned a little bit previously about the entry, the gate's going to be recessed. I don't know if ABC Landscape had issues in the past where, vehicles would pull up to the gate and maybe they were sitting inside the roadway. The gate is now going to be recessed the full length of a semi truck inward so that there'll never be a vehicle that can obstruct traffic. As mentioned earlier, it will be paved from Beacon Light Road all the way to the building, not asphalt millings, which is what's distributed around the site right now. It'll be fully paved and ADA parking added as well. Mr. Owens has had to agree to add money to escrow for the town to install a sidewalk at a future date. Something that wasn't identified for ABC, but something he's agreed to do which we see in a lot of projects. When roads were built and they didn't have curb, gutter, and sidewalk, next time there's a development in that area, whether it's another kind of permit, that's when they need to step up and participate. He's agreed to escrow that money. There's an additional fire hydrant that's going to be added, and the cost shared between his property and the proposal to the north, as per the fire department's review. Drainage, that was a big one. We do drainage everywhere. It's always every year there's more scrutiny and rules for drainage, and ABC did not have any drainage components on site. So several monies in design and ultimately in construction are going to put in a full detention pond that meets all the current criteria for the town. I want to touch on hours of operation, 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, 9 to 2 on Saturday. There was some discussion at Planning Commission about lighting. And to reiterate, I think what the chamber representative said and one of the prior presentations, everything, the way town code is, Planning Commission didn't see a site plan because it wasn't the site plan review. This is rezoning. So all the criteria that's already in the town code is what is presented. And I think there was some significant confusion there that they weren't seeing a lot of those details when it's not in the town code for those to be included as part of the rezone. We're here to be transparent and share all that information. There were some excellent questions. In my presentation last week, I did not forethink to bring up the lighting, so I appreciate the gentleman that did. A photometric plan has already been prepared and reviewed by the town's consultant. In addition to that, the comments allowed us to further define, and as Mr. Owens and I have talked, we wouldn't find this as we would find this as a condition he could accept. The principle of the lighting plan is to show what, at a build-out condition, all the lights that would be installed. The town criteria, you can't shine off-site. Mr. Owens, there's significant monies he has to put in, so he's not proposing to light immediately. The goal is, as business allows, to install lighting. But one of the conditions that we discussed was that, which was an excellent item brought up by the public at the prior hearing, was dimming those lights at 6 p.m. With the hours of operation at 5, if he has sales, paperwork, things like that, maybe they drag out to 5:30. At 6 p.m., then those lights would be dimmed down when they're constructed at whatever point that is, to a low level point that satisfies security. Traffic was discussed per the traffic engineer and the narrative that was reviewed by the town's consultant. There's 28 daily trips expected, 2 peak AM and 4 peak PM. One of the questions that I thought was excellent by one of the planning commissioners asked about that distribution. It wasn't clear to me in that narrative what that was. So I had the traffic engineer clarify that for me today. Expected of those 28, 2/3 of them to enter and exit from the south and the other third enter and exit from the north. I think that's all I have. Is there anything you'd like to add, Craig?
We were licensed, received my license yesterday, so we are licensed by the state of Colorado. So we have gone through the extensive approval process that the state requires. So we are ready to go.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for the applicant or town staff?
I will go. First of all, thank you so much for being here and for explaining all of that to us. We really appreciate it. I do have 2 quick questions. I think you had said 40% is the maximum, I don't remember exactly how it's worded, but essentially maximum land use that the rezone would cause. What is the number now?
There, and Mr. Snow may have that via that PUD. It's 40% lot coverage. So that's what you can cover in asphalt building improvements. I don't believe that PUD has one. I don't think it has a threshold.
Okay, so this would be giving essentially more of a limit to you guys, because right now there's not a limit for the PUD.
As I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I have not extensively reviewed the ABC landscaping PUD to see if it has a lot coverage. But from what I understood from Debbie, this rezoning, as I had stated, gives it is stricter than what the current PUD is. And so that was one of the things that she touted was the 40% coverage for the site.
Great.
To preserve additional landscaping and maintain spot for detention pond and things like that.
Thank you. Just really quick, 2 more things. Again, thank you for explaining all of that. For the 28 daily trips, is that big vehicles, 18-wheelers going?
Excellent question. The expectation is that those are cars, pickups. There's, as Craig's partner, Tom, represented, there's the anticipation of 1 semi, and then correct me if I'm wrong, 1 semi delivery a week. So somewhere in the span of that week would be a truck with trailers that would replenish what was sold the prior week.
Oh, okay. So
Given that we are carrying more cargoes, those are not semi-trailers, those are hot shot type.
Okay.
Do you have another?
I'll do one more. I swear I'm done. Thank you for explaining that. So the 28 trips is not 18-wheelers coming in back and forth. And then so my only thing, I guess, why I mean I love your presentation. I really think that this is seems like you guys fit in that space. I just still don't understand why even though the rezoning is going to be more strict for you, what is it that the PUD is not allowing? It's just so specific with landscape company, and you guys are not a landscape company. So that is basically the main reason why you needed to change. Is just it was too specific, and now even though you are light industrial, the last one was light industrial. For the last 2 years, it's been very specific on a PUD saying landscaping company.
Excellent question, point. In general, yes. The PUD use of landscaping is followed the intent of light industrial, but the PUD basically limits that property to just perpetually continue as a landscape business. Mr. Owens has already purchased it, so opportunities forward would be to resell it or to sublease it to landscape, companies, because that is the primary use tied to it. And light industrial rezone, the use of trailer sales falls within the light industrial use. Yeah, I hope that.
It really did. I appreciate you guys explaining that. Thank you so much.
The city required us, said we could not put leadership there under the current zone.
Okay, thank you.
To add on to the trips, you said some percentage you expect to enter and exit from the north?
So the traffic engineers, the right term, his expectation based on the trip generation he used and his understanding of the traffic is that 2/3 will enter and exit from the south and 1/3 of the 28 on a daily basis will come from the north.
Okay, so I guess this is going to be a question towards staff. To the north doesn't seem like a logical place for 18-wheelers to come down from carrying any type of cargo trailers. It's dirt road, it's curved, it's dangerous. We still haven't heard when the county is going to fix Beacon Light up to county line. So what's going to happen with Beacon Light between 105 and their place as far as is it rated for the amount of traffic and the weight of the vehicles and what they're carrying? Is it wide enough to support it? Is there any future plan that if we need to redo Beacon Light, that they would be also contributing to that as well?
Yeah, so what they're required to do right now, and they just stated that they're going to contribute to a future sidewalk if we have to do that. But also at the same time, they've done a traffic study, which wasn't required. And that traffic study does show that the trips that they generate will be contained to Beacon Light Road will contain those trips daily. And there's only one trip shown per week for 18-wheelers.
Any other questions from the board or staff in regard to rezoning?
Can I add one thing? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Just to re-stress that the property was light industrial. Obviously, purely for the review of rezoning, doesn't meet the intent of the comp plan. I think Mr. Snow has stressed that in Ms. Flynn's prior presentation. And long-term, the future land use plan that has been in front of Planning Commission and yourselves shows that corridor as light industrial. So just want to re-stress, this puts it back in line with the comp plan and the future land use plan on a straight zoning basis. Thank you.
So with the 40% lot use from basically taking the old spot of a landscaping company will require you additional landscaping.
The great question. I want to say the additional landscaping is to meet the light industrial code of 1 per 25 feet, a tree per 25 feet on the north and south boundaries.
Okay. Is there any other comments before we open public hearing on this item? Okay.
I missed your humor. Just a little slow to catch up. I'm sorry.
No worries. I thought maybe I delivered it wrong. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against this item? Ms. Hayes?
Good evening, Terry Hayes with the Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce. I was at that meeting, and so just kind of wanted to put some color onto it a little bit. This trailer company absolutely crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's. I'm assuming, as you read, the main reason it was turned down is because some of the commissioners wanted to start saying no to rezoning. That is what they wanted, no matter what the reason is. They instead prefer the applicants to ask for an amendment to the PUD instead of rezoning. To be honest, it didn't even actually seem like it had anything to do with this company. It had nothing to do with them personally. They even kind of said that it was just their bad luck that they decided to, that they presented during a time that the commissioners kind of were like, you know what? Let's not do rezoning anymore. We feel it's happening too much, so we're just going to say no right now. And with no previous notice to anyone, or that that's their desire, or that they discussed saying that maybe we need to look at these rezoning a little bit more. They just said no. I personally feel that changing the rules in the middle of the game is not fair to this company. Debbie stated that she recommended this rezoning. That is why staff is there to guide the applicants as to what is best for the town. They do this, the applicants do what's recommended of them, and then they get a no from the planning commission. It was not the previous landscaping company's fault that they were instructed to change the zone from light industrial to PUD. A couple of years ago, this was just a trend by our planning department to do this. There were several commercial buildings that were asked to change to PUD. At the time, this is not my everyday job to understand planning, so I was kind of questioning it at the time, but you know, we just thought this was what they wanted to do. As mentioned, light industrial is more strict than PUD. They will be following the new code that both the planning commissions and the trustees, you guys just approved that not too long ago. So trusting your own process and your approval of your own codes, I recommend that you let this company follow the light industrial, and that's the proper place that they should be. And I think that's what's best for the town.
Thank you, sir.
Ken Cotton, longtime resident. I just have this is more of a question than a comment. Is the rezoning only for the 5 acres?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
It's the only 5 acres in the area that's not light industrial, correct? Okay. Ma'am.
Sorry. Brandy Turner, 2065 Bobcat Valley Court. I was also at the Planning Commission meeting last week. And part of me was a little bit proud of the Planning Commission for asking the questions they were asking. They were hard on the applicant. They were digging down. They were asking the questions that we have been asking them, demanding them and you guys to ask for the past year. So part of me was proud of what they were doing. Part of me said, that's what we want to see. Those are the questions we need to be asked, but not on this project. This wasn't the project to do that. These guys are asking simply to go from a very bits and pieces zoning to a very clear, very restrictive, back to the way it was zoning. And I remember there were a couple of residents that lived in that area that were concerned about the change, concerned about the trailers that would be there and what it would look like. And to that I say, a lot of what Save Monument has been doing is not stopping development. We've been asking the developers to come to the table and talk to us about what we want. We want them to listen, and we come with an open mind. And from one developer, we even got something bigger than we even knew existed on the Connexus property of limiting crosstalks. I didn't know what a crosstalk was, but the developer said, you know, if we put a limit to crosstalks, this is going to change everything for this property. So we did. So I would say to the people who are concerned about what that property might look like, ask these guys to come in for a meeting. You seem very nice. I assume you'd come in, and if you say, I don't want it, that's not how it works. If you say, I'm concerned about a tree every 25 feet, because when I pull out of my driveway, this is what I see, ask them to do a tree every 23 feet. I don't know, but come to the table and talk to them if you have concerns about what they're developing, because they are allowed to develop it. What we want to see is developing things that make sense to the community and that we come to the table. So I would recommend that you guys approve the rezoning.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make comment on this? Mr. King.
I'm Steve King. I was also at that meeting. So I just want to get clear about one thing. First off, I welcome mom and pop businesses to this town, and so I don't have anything against this project. But just so the record is straight and it's on video, the Planning Commission never said they were against rezoning. What they said was that rezoning was a serious process. What they wanted to do was put it as amendment to a PUD because putting it as straight zoning doesn't allow you to put conditions on it. You don't need to put conditions on straight zoning because we have straight zoning rules and regulations. But that is where they went with that. They also felt that pulling it from a PUD back to a straight zone would set some type of precedence for doing it on other projects. I don't personally see that being any kind of an issue, but I just want to get clear because the Planning Commission asked the toughest questions I've ever seen. Probably because there was a lot of people in the room would be my guess. I hope that that continues. I hope that they refine their questions to where they're a little bit more relevant to issues and things like that. But by no means do I want to have the Planning Commission thrown under the bus for this because, you know, that's where they ended up. So they would have my support as well.
Thank you. Sir?
Mike Kopazinski, 18865 Spring Valley Road in Wakanda Hills, resident for 26 years. Beacon Light is currently a multi-purpose road, for lack of a better term. It is the only access point into our neighborhood from both the north and the south. It is the service road for many businesses that are being built along Beacon Light, and it also serves as a frontage road for I-25. When I-25 backs up, people come onto Beacon Light from the interstate and come down. I don't have anything against this project, but the traffic increase incrementally over time with businesses, especially trailer sales, and with Monument Ridge East and West also being considered here is a concern. And I just wanted to make that known that the residents of our neighborhood have that concern, especially with the south egress or the intersection of 105 not having a light. And that is, as traffic builds over time, it takes much longer for people to be able to come and go out of that intersection, especially with the Safeway light being there as well. So again, I don't have anything against this project per se. I just wanted to express those concerns over the building traffic.
Thank you. Julian?
Mayor Wilson, trustees. I'm a neighbor of Mike's, so I travel Beacon Light Road often, and the project or the sale of ABC Landscaping and what they're proposing to do, I have no problems with. Okay, and as a small business owner, I'm excited to bring more small businesses into the Trilex area. I will speak to you more about the infrastructure and the Beacon Light Road. We have a lot of concerns. If they want to bring trailers down from County Line Road, down the dirt windy road in the winter, it's going to deteriorate that road. That is a problem. Okay? If they are bringing trailers to 105 coming south on Beacon Light Road, there is a major traffic concern because we can sit there for 10 minutes today when we're trying to get out. So while we're talking about approving these businesses coming into town or these residential areas or re-annexing items, we really need to look at how we're going to provide conditions to get into those neighborhoods, to get into those businesses, and to make sure that the residents that are already living in the community can easily get to their locations that they're headed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make comment regarding this item? Mr. Anderson, do we have anyone online wanting to make comment? Okay. Jasmine, you may take yourself off mute and make your comment. Jasmine, if you would like to make comment, please take yourself off mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Good evening. Been listening to all these comments about the Beacon Light Road problems with the traffic. I too concur that this is going to be a major problem for traffic. It's not exactly a heavy duty road. It always needs some kind of maintenance through the winter months. An 18-wheeler, I just don't see ideal. Also, as the gentleman said, you can sit at that light for quite a duration before you can even get out onto 105. The other thing I'd like to say, and please don't don't take this too personally, but there is a trailer company down on 105, which I know is situated more in Palmer Lake, but it's an absolute eyesore from the road. All you can see are trailers.
That's the wrong place.
Okay, sorry, but anyway, there is one there, and it is an eyesore, and I prefer to see fields where we live and not trailers. If these gentlemen or the person that wishes to have this company to do this, could there be some way that the people that live nearby don't actually see these trailers? I mean, I understand they're taking out trees on this land and most probably putting in new saplings, but why take out the mature trees to begin with? We've got to try and be a little bit more environmental with our building here. We are taking out way too much vegetation. So there are my concerns, and I hope that somebody can answer some of them for me.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, do we have someone else wanting to make public comment? Okay, Mr. Hours, you may take yourself off mute and go ahead.
This is Planning Commissioner Hours, and I'd like to make some comments if the chair or vice chair of the Planning Commission is not on and wanting to make comments. Can anybody answer that for me before I make comments on behalf of the Planning Commission?
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to make it clear. In the Planning Commission, we ask hard questions. For the most part, those questions were answered by the applicant. As you will read in your minutes, or in our minutes, I was very concerned that we don't harm this applicant. The primary concern of the Planning Commission, the primary concern is that by permitting this rezoning to occur, would a precedent be set that other PUDs that were light industrial or other zoning be then permitted without any obstruction to rezoning? That was the primary concern. Is this setting a precedent? We didn't have the good fortune of having the legal attorney available to us, or nobody in the planning department answered that question. But that was our concern. We have no problem. I mean, there were questions that weren't necessarily answered to some degree to what the commissioners wanted. But in all, I don't believe that anybody wanted to hurt this applicant or to stop this project if it wasn't going to cause a precedent to be set that other pre-UDs that have been approved could then be rezoned without going through a process of requesting the rezoning. And then you can see in the minutes the points that were made. That's my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, was there anyone else online that would like to make a public comment? Okay. Anyone in person that would like to make public comment on this item? Okay. Okay, go ahead. Mr. Martin, would you like to make comment? And excuse me for that. Tony Martin, would you like to make comment?
Yeah, there's
Go
a
ahead.
concern. I'm here. There is a large concern about traffic and roads. That is not a nice road, especially in the winter. Also, keep in mind, once you rezone this, it's done. Anybody can come in. They don't have to redo it. It's done. Rezoning is setting a precedent for others. And the road is a major problem. Also with the weigh station. Are these guys going to be avoiding the weigh station by coming that way? And going down to Highway 105 is, I just don't like it. I don't like where it's at. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I will close the public hearing portion and allow the applicant to make any further responses.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick ones. I'll hit traffic as the last one. Taking out existing trees, it's just going to be a redistribution of those trees. In fact, Mr. Owens has been working with the former owner. I think he's got a proposal to do the majority of that work to relocate those trees. And I want to say there were 23 to be relocated, and we're adding 54 specifically for the north and south screening. So you can never not see what's in a site, but predominantly that's what the screening's for. Just want to make sure we were clear that we're not taking them out and removing them from the site. They're going to be planted back, and if they don't survive, they'll be replaced. Traffic, couple of items there. This business is primarily internet based, so the 28 trips per day that are estimated are based on people buying online, and then they come down and they pick it up. And just to reiterate, that 28 was not of semi trucks. That is pickups, SUVs, things with a trailer hitch that can pull it. And as Mr. Owens mentioned, you also want to stress, the worst case he sees is one semi truck per week. But depending on the trailer type, it could be the hot shots, which are going to be a pickup and a trailer. Also on traffic, and I don't know if, I know as mentioned earlier tonight, the town has several consultants for various purposes. Just to touch on it, a lot of times the way traffic is dealt with, the pieces that come in, they're plugged into a model for, okay, what's going to trigger improving these roads and then the town. And I know Mr. Foreman and maybe Mr. Kitzmiller can comment more on that, but certainly it's a process. So as traffic, just magically, one guy doesn't take it over the edge. It's a progression of traffic continues to build, especially because there's multiple lots in this future land use plan that'll be developed, and it's part of the infrastructure process of the town that those get built. Both through capital improvement and impacts from a development. Higher impacts will, I'm sure there's a threshold in place that they have to participate with road improvements. So thank you again for the chance to. Please.
I respect the callers asking about the what the lot looks like, and I certainly want to be a good neighbor. And the other locations that we have, Oklahoma Trailers Direct is the website. You can go on there. You can see the quality of the lot, the cleanliness, and then GeorgiaTrailerOutlet.com is another dealership that we own. Again, you can go online, see the condition of the dealership. These are high quality. We spend millions and millions of dollars putting these together. So it's not a little trailer dump place.
Okay, at this point, looking at the board for any questions or comments or further discussion dealing with, and I'll say it again, rezoning. That is the item before us.
I would like to make a comment. So I realize that this doesn't fall on the applicant. You guys have done an excellent job presenting tonight. That said, it's really hard for me to vote on this. It's really hard for me to vote on anything tonight. I think we've got an excellent staff in place, but this meeting has been so disorganized and it's been unfair to you guys. All the information wasn't even in the packet. Not to disparage Jacobs, but I've already heard from you twice tonight during their presentation. I believe Debbie intended this, or I believe Debbie said that. So I just want to make it clear that I think everybody in this room knows that I don't want to go into a situation where we have to shut everything down. But the tone of what happened to this applicant and everything else that's happened tonight is pushing me in another direction because this is unprofessional and disorganized and embarrassing. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board on rezoning? Or any other questions? If not, is there a motion?
I will make a motion. I need to read where it is. Sorry. I should have thought before I spoke.
5B.
5B. I would like a motion to approve ordinance number 17 to 2022, an ordinance approving a rezone for Trailers Direct Express.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee LaKind,
Yes.
trustee Shaning,
Yes.
trustee Romanella,
Yes.
trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. Okay, that passes 7-0. This takes us to the public comment portion of our meeting. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. And please, if you make public comment, do not reiterate or state the same thing that the previous person said. Ms. Chapman.
Good evening, trustee mayors. Haley Chapin here from Tri-Lakes Cares. Just wanted to take a quick moment to remind and reiterate about September being our Hunger Action Month. Hopefully everybody will consider wearing orange at some point. If you don't mind taking a ribbon and passing them down. I encourage you all to wear your ribbons throughout the rest of the month to signify support over some of the initiatives that we do in the community about raising awareness for hunger needs in our community. Also mentioning that Empty Bowl Silent Auction will be coming up in the beginning of October, put on by Monument Hill Kiwanis at Lewis Palmer School District, Lewis Palmer High School, benefiting Tri-Lakes Cares. It's one of the biggest fundraisers to support us. So I hope to be able to see you all there in support of that community-wide event. Also, as you start your work towards budget season, I want to continue to thank the trustees and the town for their continued support of Tri-Lakes Cares, and thus then allowing us to take that support and then further it towards the residents so that we can provide support for folks who find themselves struggling. So just want to reiterate our support for the town and thank you for the town's support of Tri-Lakes Cares.
Thank you. Anyone else like Mr. King?
I'm Steve King. So tonight is a perfect example of why we need a planning department. There's lots of questions that went unanswered today. Not to take anything away from the consultant, but the consultant is way not up to speed. And this is going to take some time to get through this. I'm not even sure they really know where the natural features and everything else are in this town. So this is going to take some time. This actually was pretty disappointing as far as talking about any kind of a pause. Most of these questions felt scripted and leading. And to make the record straight, I never called for a moratorium. I just wanted to have some kind of a pause so we could get this stuff fixed. But the system is kind of in disarray right now. And there's a wide range of moratoriums. I mean, moratoriums can be really simple and easy, and they can be shutting down the whole town. I would not want to shut down the whole town. We have made some pretty good deals with some large developers. Some of them are sitting back here. We sat across the table and we worked out our differences, and we came to a mutual understanding. But the consultants don't have that same kind of knowledge of what goes on around here. And as far as building out the town goes, so I was a planning commissioner in Inglewood. Most of you know that. Inglewood's been built out for 50 years. They have a planning director and 3 planners. And they have that because there's always stuff going on. I mean, so under this scenario, does the town manager stay as a planning director indefinitely? I think we need our own planning department. And who makes the decisions of what's in substantial compliance or not? We've got a lot of things coming up. And as far as like Front Street, for example, that's a site plan approval with administrative features at the end. So you guys ask questions about it, but that plan's never coming back here. That's going to get decided by consultants, and that's fine. We have zone district with regulations, and that can run its course. I don't have any problems with that. That's why all those rules were set up in advance. But